Ah, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Moonbase 2 podcast with Andy, Decade Andy, and with Big D. Hello, Big D.
Hello, Decade Andy. How you doing?
Tired as ever. I'm trying to readjust my
Yeah.
sleep schedule at the moment. So instead of going to bed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm now pushing it to like 2:30.
Hey.
The problem was
Progress.
I woke up at 7.
Yeah.
So that was 2:30 till 7.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, please let me sleep. And my body was like, not today, sucker. Like, oh no. All right, well, there you go. But apart from that, I saw the TFCon happened, and I did wonder, was it worth talking about any of the TFCon stuff? But it doesn't look like they had any reveals, really. It was just kind of reiterating stuff that had already been shown and alluded to, third-party wise.
Didn't they reveal what's his name? The really cool Cybertron Decepticon dude that with the funky wings.
No, that was last week.
Was it?
And that was an official Hasbro product.
Yeah. Yeah.
TFCon doesn't reveal official stuff.
Oh.
Third-party stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird.
Yeah, it's not that. I don't think LA is their big third-party reveal stuff. There were a couple of bits in there, but I was like, not enough to like proper an entire show, you know. So I was just like, yeah, well,
that's fair.
We got animated to talk about. We're gonna go back and talk about the animated stuff. So we're gonna play the music. We're gonna talk about some toys, animated wise. Okay.
Ooh.
All right. I'm gonna play that music, baby. Let's go.
Welcome to Moonbase 2.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Moonbase 2 podcast. My name is Andy, Decade Andy. I'm joined by Big D. Hello, Big D.
Hello.
And we are picking up the second part of the animated discussion. I guess this is like 08, 09 time-ish line, kind of continuity, toy line-wise, I think, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right, yeah.
Because I think we covered 2008 last time we did this, and it's now picking up from there. Going through the usual format.
Went a bit into 2010, so...
Some of them, yeah. I think Blackout, who the last one we have on to talk about, I'm pretty sure that's 2010. But that was a Japanese exclusive, because fuck everybody, I guess.
And our first one was another store, was a US store exclusive.
Was RC was she an exclusive RC?
According to the blurb, availability, it was exclusively available at Toys R Us stores in 2010.
Huh. I thought we had it.
Not in the UK, it wasn't.
I wish I could say I'm shocked. I thought we did have it in the UK, but I wouldn't be super surprised if we were screwed out of toys from Hasbro again. I mean, it's very rare for Hasbro to screw over the UK and the rest of the world, but
I know,
it does happen every now and again. But yes, you're right. We're going to be starting off with RC. There's one figure I didn't add, who you and I will both need to add later, which is Rodimus, because I don't have him on the list, and I forgot to add him, so we'll need to remember to do him, because I think he's. I don't think he was 08. I think he was 09 or 010. I'm pretty sure, at least.
He was kind of like the season 2 roster, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if he was an exclusive like RC was, but I don't think he was easy to get.
He wasn't easy to get. He did get re-released in a few exclusive sets.
That's true. He got a few re-releases. I just mean first runs.
Yeah.
But we'll start off with RC, as we said. So RC, is this... No, because we'd had RC previously from the... What was it? Superlink line.
We'd had Energon.
Yeah,
we had Energon RC / Superlink. And she was kind of... That was really RC figure we had, but this was the first one that kind of looked properly like RC.
Yeah.
As most people could imagine her.
Not 100% accurate, but close enough. Closer than most.
But a very stylized take on the silhouette that we associate with RC normally.
Yeah.
And This is one that I really wish I'd been able to pick up at someone because I've never had this figure because
Oh, really?
she was just really hard to get hold of. I should probably try again now. To be fair, it might be a little easier.
Or it might be harder.
But it was
maybe.
Yeah. But she just looked great.
Yeah.
It was a nice design.
There's some issues to the figure, but I'll say it was nice that we had an RC figure that wasn't a motorbike. That was nice.
Yes.
And she had, we've had other, don't get me wrong, we've had other female Transformers who have, car modes instead of bike modes. But usually one of the two modes look a little bit on the funky side. I think both of the, obviously, because she's stylized here to be the animated style. I think both modes work a lot better here than in most iterations of RC. Or female Transformers in general. So
you actually have a version of this figure, right? Or you've owned a version of it?
I currently have two versions of this figure.
So how much backpack does she have? Because that's normally the downfall of most RC figures. They try for that feminine body, but at the sacrifice of giving it basically making it a shell former.
It is a big backpack, but if you look at the vehicle mode, you see where the wings are clipped on the back.
Yes.
Those
take those off and it minimizes it quite a bit, I imagine.
Yeah, you can pop the wings off. They're not stuck on there. You can pop them off. But the things that they're pegged onto, those big pieces that go up to the little white bits on the side, those are just solid pieces where there's a wheel and they just kind of fold backwards onto her back. Okay. So it is quite a big backpack. She's not a shell former. And I don't think she has issues standing. And I'm pretty sure as well that the translucent blue little cockpit visor thingy on her vehicle mode, that also just kind of sits around her arse area.
Okay,
but it's not too bad.
It's not too bad, to be honest. I mean, at least
again, when you compare it to Earthrise Kingdom RC, it's way better than that.
Yeah, I mean the pylons, they kind of help create that classic RC silhouette. You know, and the fact that the wheels actually do fold away, I didn't realize. That's actually really nice. The
wheels don't really fold away. They're just because those pieces just kind of swing backwards. And like you say, if you look at the robot mode, you can see the wheel just behind the left side of her head.
Oh yeah.
So they're still visible, but they're just out the way. And it's the same for the wheels on the back of her shins as well. You can see where they are, but they're not obtrusive. You can just about see the canopy as well. If you look below her groin. That little bit there, I think, is the bottom of the canopy. So it does just kind of sit around her arse area. But I don't remember her being super top heavy or anything like that, or falling over. The weird thing about the robot mode, at least, there's a couple of things. One, her face is peach colored. Two, she has molded lips. Three, those lips are not painted. This was not accurate to how she looked in the show.
Yeah, that is a tad on the odd side.
Yeah. Bokon did a drag strip, which we'll be talking about in a moment, which painted those lips and makes the figure look better. I think Japan also painted the lips on their RC, but I'm not entirely sure. Even then, the actual design of the mouth looks a bit weird. Even for it being animated. It's just a little, it just looks a little off, I think. Nice thing is she has a big translucent piece on the back of her head, so her eyes are nice and glowy. The two big pylons on her back, where her wheels are, is where you store her swords. You can see the top of the translucent hilts in the swords, and that's where they store, which again, quite nice storage. Not really, if you think about trying to grab the swords from back there, doesn't
she's not
really
getting
work.
those.
No, she might just be able to grab the handles. But she ain't pulling them out.
Not going to draw them.
No. I mean, wasn't it like the joke of Link's sword from the Legend of Zelda games? Like he could never wield that sword because it's too big, and if he grabbed it, he just couldn't pull it out. Same thing for RC. The design for her elbows and forearm rotations is also a little on the ugly side. You know, if you look at the elbow joint. It is a... so shoulder is a ball joint, but there is no bicep swivel. So it's just a peg that runs down from her shoulder into a ball joint on her shoulder, on her elbow. And then that's the elbow joint. That's fine. It's ugly, but fine. This big pink piece then kind of slowly transitions into a feminine arm, but the arm is on a mushroom peg. So again, it just looks a little bit weird and ugly. Oh, it works.
It's kind of a shame that there's no cover over there. I know you couldn't really do much with the elbow joint, but at least for the forearms, hiding that would have probably helped a little bit.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, why not? And it's a bit of a brute force solution to getting the proportions for the character.
It's one of those things that you think nowadays it would be something that they try and finagle around with just to make a little bit smooth. I'm sure it would look a little bit nicer if done today. Unfortunately, the worst thing about the arms is the hands. Now, we have open hands. Fine. That's in keeping with so far a lot of the animated line we saw and talked about it last time. You know, Oil Slick has open hands, etc., etc. However, what do you think the issue is, Big D?
Does she suffer from G.I. Joe syndrome?
What is G.I. Joe syndrome?
Well, it might just be me, but when I was a lad, my G.I. Joes, the hands had a tendency to require a little bit of pressure to get a decent grip.
It can be the case, but what I want you to specifically do is look at the sword. So when you go to the parts, have a look at the sword and look at the hilt.
Oh, yeah.
So for those not looking at the image, the hilt of the sword is not round. It is a square. Oh, yeah. It is a square for a round hole. So you have to jam it in there and then like get the corners effectively to be the grip on the thumb and the other fingers.
And those are some very thin thumbs.
Yes. I don't remember if people have broken theirs. I wouldn't be surprised. But this, I think this is the start of the RC and female Transformers having weirdly shaped weapons for the hands that they're designed with. Because I think this became a thing. I mean, we talked about this with other figures where it's just like, you have an RC, she has a round hole, and she has a square weapon. Because this is the same for Generations RC. I think Earthrise RC has this. It's weird.
Yeah, either they're not shaped or they put a weird piece on the grip that means that they can't actually hold it properly for some unforeseen reason.
Yeah, Windblade has it with the sword hilts as well on some of the swords. It's just bizarre. I think this was the first female figure to do it. I don't know why. I don't think it makes the translucent swords look any better having squared off handles.
Not at all.
So
it is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes no sense. And it is always only the female Transformers that have it. I don't know why.
Yeah, it is.
I can't imagine it makes things better. I can't imagine it makes things cheaper, but I guess that would have to be the reason they do it, right? Why else would you do it?
There must be someone on the design team who's just got it in their head that it's a good idea and no one's been able to beat it out of them yet.
It feels like that, yeah.
Because, I mean, like you say, it's been going on now for over 15 years.
Feels like it, yeah. Yeah, it's bizarre. One thing that's not shown here very well is she has quite a long neck. It's one of those things where I think that the chin kind of goes down and covers up some of the neck. But if you pop the head off the joint, you can see just how long that neck joint actually is. I'm pretty sure the ball joint... I'm trying to think where the ball joint is. I think the ball joint might be like behind her nose, like that kind of height. So it's quite a long neck piece. Isn't it? Yeah. She's quite articulated. She has waist joint. She has hip skirts, which are quite nice because they look like car exhaust things. Thigh swivels, which are nice. Single knee joint, obviously. The feet are on swivel joints, so she doesn't really have an ankle tilt, but she's got a kind of pseudo one. The front of the shins are a little bit ugly, but it all kind of compresses down. Like the weird piece on the front of her shin is one of the tops of the car mode, so you'd fold those pieces outwards. And if you look at the vehicle mode, you can see where about those pieces are in the center of the hood. So it's a very nice, compact little vehicle mode. The weapons do store nicely. The problem with the vehicle mode is the hands are very, very, very obvious because they don't do anything with them. It's a case of don't look at my bottom, please. But I think it's a very good little successful vehicle, to be honest.
Yeah, I think so. It gives you all the elements of that G1RC as well. It's really good at it evokes RC without being beholden to it. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I would agree.
Yeah.
And then you've got
honestly,
oh sorry.
No, I was just saying, anytime they've tried to replicate G1RC beat for beat, it's always been a losing prospect because both the animation, the robot and the car, they cheat massively.
Yeah.
You just can't. You can't.
East Wars level of cheating, if not even more than that.
Yeah. I mean, I think a couple of the REW designs probably gave her the best treatment in terms of trying to work out how to make it work.
Yeah.
The RAD 2.01 and the Terminator designs, I'm quite fond of for how they do that. Actually, give you an idea of how everything works. But otherwise, we've had 2 attempts in mainline to do G1RC, and neither one's really stuck the landing because they've been shell formers effectively.
Yeah.
The one that they based off of, did they do one based on Titan's Return? There was a Titan's Return one. I can't remember what body they used. Was it a cup they used for that one?
No, it was Blur. I think it was Blur, and they repainted it white.
It was Blur. It was heavily retooled Blur.
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah,
fine. It's like you could tell it wasn't its own unique mold, but it's like, well, if you're gonna redo something, I guess Blur kind of works.
Yeah, but whenever I think of RC in I say modern, but again, this is 15 years ago now, or more. But to me, this is probably the most successful redesign they've done. I mean, I actually do quite like the Cyberverse and the Earthspark takes.
Oh, the problem is they've just got shite toys with no budget behind them. That's the problem.
But that's a shame because they are really nice designs.
Do you have the Cyberverse RC?
I don't, sadly. I was never able to find one.
I was going to ask if she'd turned orange for you yet.
Oh, is that a thing? Is it? I hadn't heard.
She has the issues like the Frisbee G1 Cybertron Bumblebee has. That first run seems like they just turn orangey brown for some reason.
Nice.
Don't know why, but that seems to be the case for them. I think. Would you say like it's the best RC design, or would you say that Prime is? Because I think that might be better. It's also its own unique design, or more so a unique design than just Tank RC.
I think I kind of rate them side by side because I know it's a cheap answer, but honestly, they're both. One's a massive. The Prime version is a massive kind of recontextualization of the character in terms of her aesthetic
and character, I suppose, as well.
Yeah. I mean, this version is a massively different personality-wise because they made her a teacher.
And
but it's a really nice. Yeah,
she's in only a very small amount of time. She's nice though when you see her.
Yeah, but she is a really good update of the classic design cues.
Yeah, I'd say so.
They both do. They give 2 kind of hints of where you could go with RC, and I don't think any designs since have done both ideas great guns, I think, but none of the toys have really stuck the landing, to my mind.
Okay. Well, we can talk about Dragstrip now, the Bokon version of it. Yeah. So, this is the figure, but I think much better. We've got the RC figure, and it's just done up into Dragstrip colors. With a really, really good face design. And the really good color scheme of black and yellow, which always works. And then we've got like red highlights as well. I love the fact that on her, let's call them the sword sheaths, we've got extra bits of paint as well for the red. Almost like you put the swords in there and it would activate these like energy lines right down it, which is kind of neat.
Yeah, I always remember when the first time I saw this, it was like, wow, that's actually a really because there's no new molding to it. It's complete.
No.
It's just paint
Yeah.
and different colors, and that's really, really astonishing that they've managed to do so little to make it. And it was already good figures, but this just makes everything just sing so much more.
And the lips don't look as weird this time around because they've done they either painted them or painted around them with a highlighter, one of the two.
I think they've done like it almost looks like there's a slight wash.
Yeah.
They've added, I'd say.
Or like a Gundam marker just to edge highlight it. Something like that.
Yeah.
Just to make it pop a little bit more.
I mean, it makes it more distinct and it does just make it pop. Whereas on the previous one, it just didn't really, it was there and it felt weird.
Yeah. Yeah, the drag strip feels way more painted than the RC, especially with the blue on the face, the black running down the center of the eyes, and then the red for the cheeks as well. And then the RC one's just peach, just peach colored. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me. You got the Stunticon insignia on a boob, which looks good. And
I've always loved that idea for them to make the Stunticon logo basically a crash test dummy symbol. That's brilliant.
It makes sense. It works. It looks really good as well. The car mode, I think, again, works quite nicely. The translucent blue swords are now translucent orange swords. This is another really good redesign. It's not drag strip, but it works really well as a repaint. And I don't think we've ever seen it done again, like drag strip out of RC.
No. I mean, none of the other RCs have really fit the vibe for drag strip. This is probably the closest.
I just throw it out there because you know how lazy Hasbro get with repaints. It's weird that they just didn't go, fuck it, just do it. We've done it someone else did it in the past. We'll do it now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of surprised that none of the Mirage toys we've had in recent years have had a drag strip repaint. But then I suppose
true.
I suppose they've been more committed to combiners since then. Before, they'd just do these repaint. They'd throw out a combiner team member as a repaint as like a.
We remember combiners.
Yeah, well, we remember they exist. Can't combine them, but it is one of them.
No, not yet. You're gonna have to wait for them, baby.
Yeah, but I mean, and again with this set, especially because they were drawn completely from the animated line, then there were kind of limited options to go for. And as a version of drag strip, I think this is actually a really fun take.
Yeah, I agree. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Blur. Fast Boy Blur. Really interesting car mode, really crap weapon, and a kind of okayish robot mode in places.
Yeah. Okay.
I say specifically in places because his legs are kind of ugly because they're meant to be very slender and long, and because of how the transformation works, they're kind of on the flat side.
I was going to ask about that because they do look a little precarious.
Yes, they have to become. I think if you look at the car mode, they're the bottom of the car door, or some of them are the bottom of the car doors.
Ouch.
Do they fold on top of each other?
I think they might. Yeah.
They fold on top of each other. I think that's what it is, which is kind of impressive. It's more successful than like Lockdown. It's much more successful than Lockdown, and if they're not doing the exact same transformation scheme, but I think they're doing like similar ideas because if I remember, Blur's quite a tall Transformer toy. I think the deluxe line. I don't think he's as tall as Lockdown, but I do remember him just being again an improvement over him. Mr. White has appeared. Hello, Mr. White, and says, "I owned Animated RC, probably in a box somewhere. Guessing the swords vanished like every other owner's experience. Oh, maybe you ate them. Maybe you just popped them in your mouth and swallowed one day, Mr. White.
Maybe threw them out in rage.
Oh, that could be the thing. Yeah, maybe you broke your fingers. I could have seen that. Blur's got some very big shoulders as well. One of the things I do remember about Blur is the antenna on top of his head. That's soft plastic, so it does have a tendency to bend, obviously. In angles it shouldn't bend. But it's nice that it kind of appears in the back of the car mode, at least. And it is a very slick car mode. I do like the general look of that a lot. It's not a Earth car mode, that's for sure, but it's fancy.
It does. It gives out big Batmobile vibes as well.
Yeah, I agree. Though, like I say, his chainsaw is a wee bit shit. It doesn't look very chainsaw-y, and it's on a spring. There's a button in the front of the car mode where you press it and it kind of just pops out from underneath the car mode if you lift up the car. If you don't lift up the car, the spring's not going to go.
It just kind of hits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Yeah, it's...
If it kind of popped out horizontally, that'd have been fun, but as it's just on a swivel hinge, that's not great.
And you can see that, like, they don't have blurb holding it for some reason, but you can see, like, in the parts list, it is just the front of the car, or at least the middle of the front of the car. So you can imagine you just kind of slap that onto his forearm, and again, it looks a little bit ugly. But I think that the head design's really good. I like his little goat beard. His weird tiny feet that go into big wheels as well is nice. He's also got the front toes. I'm pretty sure they're replicated on the back of the car mode, on the back of the feet. So he's got little tiny front toes and little tiny back toes for heel spurs, if I remember right. What do you think of him, Big D? Do you like him?
I like the design. Like you say, the legs are a tad on the ugly side, and I'd be worried about them breaking, to be honest. But he looks fast. He looks like he's live and a runner.
You know what's weird? They never repainted him in red colors, because I think this could work as like if you gave him like yellow lightning bolts and he wanted to say the Flash. I think it could work as a Flash kind of stand-in kind of looking nod, right?
Yeah, well, it's actually weird. There's never really been a DC Transformers crossover, has there?
Has there?
I mean, we've had Marvel quite extensively. We had Star Wars.
No, I don't. Yeah, I think you're right, because Mattel owned... I think around this era, Mattel owned the license to DC, I think. Because they were doing their Marvel Legends line, whatever that was called. DC Universe? Yeah, they were doing their DC Universe line, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe that was later. Either way. Yeah. But yeah, Hasbro's never owned the license, and I'm guessing they never would be allowed to. Because maybe because McFarlane might give it up easily enough.
Yeah.
Well, for a crossover at least, you know.
But it's not like Hasbro have been averse to doing a crossover with properties they don't own the rights to.
I would imagine McFarlane wouldn't want to.
Oh yeah, Todd ain't letting those go for nothing.
No. Yeah, he'd need to make a silly amount of money from giving them the license for just even one crossover toy. I would imagine. I don't know Todd McFarlane, but that's the kind of vibe I get from him when I've seen him talk about stuff. You're looking forward to that new Spawn movie?
There's a new Spawn movie coming?
Oh, there's been a new Spawn movie coming for a while.
Jesus. Look, I feel old enough about the fact that because of how the Image verse works, that most of their books actually run in real time.
Oh, God, really?
There's currently a series that stars Spawn's daughter.
Oh.
The one who was a baby in the original Spawn comics.
Oh, no.
Yes, she's now a character in her own right.
Huh.
That, when I found that out, something inside me broke slightly.
A little part of you just turned to dust and vanished into the ether.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Bye. I was going to say this guy didn't get redone. That's a lie. He got redone into animated Cheetor, which was a club exclusive. An interesting idea. I can see where they're coming from. I think as a completely new head design for Cheetor, it doesn't really scream Cheetor head design wise specifically, but color scheme wise and whatnot, it kind of makes sense. It's more Beast Machines Cheetor than it is Beast Wars Cheetor, you know?
Yeah. Was this not the line where they were aiming for a little bit of trans tech vibe? using some of those never used designs. I could be wrong on this, but I'm sure there was some bit of blurb I read that was the intent.
I'm happy to go along with it because I can't remember. It sounds like something they might have done at the very least. I don't see anything specific on it.
The head sculpt doesn't look like Cheetor from any of the series he has ever appeared in, but it's a new head sculpt. That's one thing in this favor. It's actually quite a nicely detailed head sculpt at that. It's quite unique in its styling.
It's even got freckles, but they look more like pimples on the face.
Sadly, yes. Yeah.
It's like he's got space acne. Either that or you can read those as his eyes rather than the green bits, and then it looks like he's got extra eyes.
That makes him just kind of terrifying.
What do you think makes more visual sense? Because the eyes are quite far apart.
Far back.
Yeah, they're not only quite far back, they're quite far apart.
I mean, oddly enough, the vertical sensor in the middle of his crest looks more. It kind of reads more like an eye than anything else because of how distinctive it is.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like I'm trying to think. I think the artwork made the face look more coherent. I think it might have been one of those in 2D the face kind of works, but in 3D space. So sometimes things just don't work out. And I think
it might as well just be the angle because I think it's because of the angle we've seen it at a very straight angle.
Yeah, that doesn't help either.
I think just slightly to one side or the other would probably give it a bit more. You'd get more of the depth.
You'd see the eyes, that's for sure, at the very least, rather than what we're doing at the moment. And it's one of the things that's either you'll like or maybe not like is for the car mode, he has the cheetah spots on him. I like it. I like the fact that the cheetah spots are in the robot mode as well. It's extra paint app detailing, so that's expensive. Well, for a fans collectors club, I'm sure. I don't know. I like it in the robot mode. I don't know about the car mode because it looks really weird having a car with cheetah spots on it, but not all over it.
Yeah, that's the weird bit for me. That they've not really, they've been strategic in how they've applied it, which I get.
Yeah,
but it kind of makes you feel like, well, you did park. Could you not have just a little bit more because you've already started?
Do you think it would look? Do you think it would look better if it was completely cheetah spotted, or do you think they did it because if they over cheetah spotted it, it might look strange?
Honestly, I think that might have been it. They were trying to get the right balance, and it's not an easy thing to do. This way, you've got the spot, so it's kind of it is cheetah, but not so much that it looks like a clown car, effectively,
or a car that has acne or some kind of skin disease.
Or something from Banana Splits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think you're right. I think it's just this hard balance between the two, and I think even though I think it looks weird because it does, it's spots on the car. That's always weird. I think it's better than if it was just splodged everywhere.
Yes,
I don't think that would have worked too well. Mr. White says,
"Fun."
Yeah. Mr. White says Cheetor is a worthy attempt at a fun repaint. Yeah, I would agree. Yes. I think that's same for the head mold. I think it's a good attempt that maybe didn't completely work out, but I think it's a good attempt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a good try. Not 100%, but you tried your best. We got Ironhide next, who also gets repainted into Ratchet. So, I mean, we'll talk about both versions. I don't have the Ironhide version of this figure. I have the Ratchet version. But I think they did, again, a very good representation of transferring the cartoon animation model of Ironhide from like the 2 episodes he's in to a 3D toy version of himself.
I think so, yeah.
His transformation's not too bad. It's kind of interesting, and he turns from a very orange robot to a... what kind of vehicle would you describe this as?
It's not really a walker. It's more of a... It's a very sci-fi utility vehicle.
It's like an H-tank, but the H bits are pointing downwards.
Yeah.
And that's not a great description either.
Well, it's kind of like an all-terrain... It's a H-tank where the gimbals are actually fully articulated, so they actually have more play to them than you normally expect. So
Yeah.
it's got a bit more, which for a civvy utility vehicle actually is kind of cool. That makes a bit of sense.
Oh, it's you kind of see vehicles like this when they're like big trucks, right? And they've changed their tires to like the triangular treads, right? Is that what you're trying to talk about? Have you seen those before?
Yes, yeah, I have. Yeah, for ones for the like triangular track.
Yeah, only in America, obviously, but they look fucking cool. And you
really
probably need them if you live in like, I don't know, Colorado, places like that, heavy forested areas that get snowed the fuck under during the winter. It's kind of like a more futuristic version of that. I think vehicle-wise, it looks like it does look kind of like what I would imagine a Cybertronian version of G1 Ironhide might look like, because it's, I don't know whether it's me just coping, but it's still got like almost a camper van sci-fi version of itself kind of feel.
Absolutely. I mean, it actually looks more like almost like Rodimus Prime's touring setup.
Yeah, technically the front of the truck mode and it looks like the top part looks a bit like the Winnebago roof for the trailer. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. Just happens to have these gimbals that you talked about.
Yeah, it's like one of those motorhomes you'd go on holiday in.
Yes, except this one, you can go all terrain with it.
Absolutely.
Granted, like you do that, then the place would go everywhere. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's a fun take on what G1 Ironhide could have looked like in Cybertron.
Yeah, since we never saw his vehicle mode, yeah, that's a good point.
Arguably, it's more interesting than a lot of versions we've seen in recent years.
It's more interesting than a lot of Cybertronian vehicles, I think it's fair to say. I'd say that's the same for Blur, because his obviously wasn't... Yeah. Actually, was his based on an Earth car in the show? I can't remember.
I think his was supposed to be an Earth car because he was actually on Earth at the time.
Yeah, I think you're right, but you just look at that and you're like...
But animated had a very distinct aesthetic for Earth. It was a weird future but retro period.
G1 season 3, yes, Hot Rod's totally a car, Blur's a car. Yeah, it's like they're cars, are they? Yeah. I mean, it's 2010. This is what cars are going to look like in the future. It's like, is it though? And we're in 2025 going, well, I mean, how close does this look like to a Tesla? It's like, I guess it's not too far off. I suppose. This one's a bit more sleek, I'd say, than a Tesla. There are some issues with this vehicle mode, though. There's some gaps in the side of the truck mode thing. The translucent bit blue for the window screen on the front, I think looks good. On the sides, because you can see the pin running through. It's a little ugly. Bit of a shame. And I'm pretty sure around the back you have to have his knuckle duster things, because if you don't, his hands are visible. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
That sounds about right for animated, to be honest. I think there were more than one alt mode had that where you needed the weapons to complete the vehicle.
I can't remember if he had to hold them or if you used the little peg clippy things. If you look on the knuckle duster things, they've got these little rectangular slots on them. I think those could peg into the back of the camper hammock thingamadoodah. I think
not surprised me, to be honest.
Did his fists have like a minor punch action to them? I think one of them does. If you look at the left hand side, you can see his arms bent forward, and just below, like the double elbow joint, is like an orange piece. I think that's a little plunger.
If this one didn't, wasn't there like a subline of like action battlers that had stuff like that? I think they may have had an Ironhide in there that did that.
I'm sure something like that had to happen.
Because you're making me remember things.
Yeah, he was meant to have knuckle dusters, and I think ratchets were meant to be like shock pads. So I'm thinking maybe the action was like clear, at least with one arm.
You're right, though. It does look like there is an action in there.
Only on one arm, though, obviously. Not both, because why would you want it on both?
Yeah.
I know that one of my favorite pieces of transformation is that the front treads sit nicely underneath like the tummy area, so it does make him a little bit chunkier. It looks like he's packing some pounds in there, and I remember it just felt nice to click them in. He's got a nice characterful face as well. design. I just think he's a neat little boy. He's a neat little lad, you know?
Yeah.
This mold was never recolored. Well, it was, because I got the Ratchet version of it. Oh no, they class it as a remolded version. Okay, that's right. There was 3 versions of this. So, first one, Ratchet, Cybertronian Ratchet. He has a new head, so he is remolded. That is true. Did they remold I think they remolded a forearm. I think they remolded a forearm for the lockdown gun.
It looks like it, yeah.
Because this was when he lost it in this mode form.
This is the younger, perkier flashback Ratchet.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, so he does have a similar face. Yeah, so there is a bit more remolding here. The vehicle mode is pretty much the same. It's just got the, I guess, the legally usable, not copyrighted ambulance service logo on the side of him, so they don't get sued with a heart monitor beep on him. It's quite a nice spread of colors. Do you like this one, Big D?
I do. Like I say, it's a nice spread of colors. There's a nice consistency in how the paint and the plastic look for the reds, which is nice. Not always a guarantee, but looks good. The fact that just the way they've used the colors makes it the alt mode look. There's no remodeling to the alt mode. That's the thing. The head and, like I say, one of the arms, for the robot, but otherwise, the alt mode is 1-to-1 with Ironhide, and yet still looks side by side. They look really distinct from each other just off of paint, which is really nice. I dig that. It
probably helps that Ironhide was just arguably the wrong color for what you would think is Ironhide, because he's just orange.
Yeah.
Very, 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 very orange man colors.
Yeah.
While Ratchet actually has his normal spread of colors and looks a bit more consistent. I will say that I was never quite sure why they didn't fully paint his horns red. There almost seems like a dramatic stop in where the paint went for them. Like goes to a point, then goes stop. Same for the side of the ears, the little red bits. There's you can see where like the paint almost kind of cuts off, and they went, "That's it. That's the breadth of the paint."
It is a bit weird, isn't it?
I can't remember if that's just for like, I don't want to say safety, but obviously if you paint the horns are probably gonna get chipped and have paint come off them anyway. So maybe the idea was to have not them painted all the way to the edges to keep the paint a little bit more safe. Maybe that might be too generous of me to think that, but. So there was that, and then Bokon obviously decided to do the Auto Troopers as a 3-pack set, famous from their Kiss Players series, which everybody loves. When you ask a Transformers fan like Mr. Adam White, what's his favorite Transformers series, he says Kiss Players and then licks his lips seductively. We all know this. We've all seen it. We've all felt very uncomfortable in the bar with Mr. Adam White late at night talking. He regales his tales of him. That love of that first Kiss Players comic. Oh boy. But they actually did a really good job making a completely new head mold for him.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's spot on. I can't remember offhand. This is because I can't remember if the Ratchet has the thing in his forearm or not. And I can't remember if he does, if the Ironhide has it as well. Because if the Ironhide has it as well, these guys have it. If it's only the Ratchet mold that has it, then I don't know if these guys have it or not. But it is just a redo. It's got the... it's not the Elite Guard logo. It is a different logo. It's a Autobot insignia, then with extra lines around it, which I don't think is, in all honesty, a great logo. It's different, but it just feels a bit much.
Kind of get what it's kind of giving off almost fortification vibes, like is enclosing the Autobot symbol to make like a little fortification. So
like the police force, so they're guarding the city. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I could see that.
It's one of those things. If it had turned up on maybe more than just these guys, so we could have had the regular symbol, the Elite Guard, and then this a bit more visibly in the broader toy range.
Yeah.
That might have. Hell, I was still surprised we never got Prowl in animated. No, we had Prowl, but he was a completely different take on the character. But we didn't really have a.
Oh, you mean G1 Prowl kind of character?
Yeah, so like a stakeout or a.
Yeah, that would have been fun.
Yeah, like a stakeout type character.
Yeah.
That sort of.
I think didn't they do animated versions of what's his name? The little fuck from Victory. Is that Holly? The Micromaster who hangs around with Jan all the time.
Yeah,
I'm
not
pretty
sure.
I'm pretty sure someone drew like animated versions of them. Probably Derek, knowing Derek. I'm pretty sure. When I look at this Autobot insignia, it reminds me of are they chevrons on military uniforms? The little downwards triangles. It almost
the
has
sergeant stripes.
Yeah, it almost feels like they're adding more of those around the Autobot insignia. It's a bit weird, like I say, but I don't hate it. Obviously, the vehicle mode is just white and black and blue. It's like, they haven't changed anything. They've actually done a little bit of panel lining as well. If you look around the tread parts.
Yeah, some nice black lining to bring out some of this detail, which is something I wish they'd do more on monochrome figures like this, to be honest, especially when it's all white, especially a white plastic, because a lot of the whites they use, again, we've talked about before, can just eat up any of the detail because of how they absorb the light.
Well, this is the difference between like the fans' hobby thing versus Hasbro, because Hasbro wouldn't do this. There's no way that they do this. One thing I do remember about these are the paint never on the tread parts, the black bit on the treads. I don't think. No, you can even see it on the transformed robot legs. They don't quite do the full coverage. Unfortunately, it's a bummer.
A bit of a shame.
Yeah. Maybe there are a few out there, but my three don't have that, at least, and I'm pretty clearly this one doesn't. And the final one that they did is a repaint of the Auto Trooper. It's a Fistatron, or Iron Fist, as he's also known.
Fizzitron, yeah.
Fizzitron, yeah. The eyes look a little bit weird on Fizzitron. They've tried to paint in pupils, and they look a little bit weird. It's not too bad the further are you away from it. It is colored as kind of like the toy, the G1, G2 toy. Not really, because he was more of a beigey, peachy color rather than orange, but it's close enough.
Oddly, I'm looking at it, and it gives off vibes of Carrie Sundak's design more than anything in terms of her colors.
Oh, color-wise, I could see that.
The way they've done the eyes are very similar to her second season.
Her robot mode
transformed
thing. Third mode?
Yeah.
No, season 3, right? No. Whenever she did it. No,
it was like season 2, season 3.
Yeah, something like that. Was it only when she became teenage Sari that she could do it? Could she do it as kid Sari?
Not when she was kid Sari, it was when she leveled up.
Yeah, that had to be like season 3, I think. Something like that. Anyway.
Yeah. But it's a neat little call out that suggests he might be like a sidekick she's inadvertently created, which is fun.
Yeah, that could be something. It could be like Sumdak finally coming down to the basement to squeeze those hookers' throats once and for all, just as a robot. Could be the thing. Again, it's not very Iron Fist, but the head design kind of works for Iron Fist. The vehicle mode is pretty fucking ugly because of the color spread, but it does make it interesting and unique. And he is just rocking the standard Autobot insignia. I like him, but if someone said he has an ugly spread of colors, I'd be like, yeah.
That's fair.
Bright orange, baby blue, black. Yeah, definitely distinctive. No one's gonna fight on that. That's for sure. It would have been nice maybe to have him not have the knuckle duster pads. I would have liked the Auto Trooper, to be honest, have a baton, like a brutality police baton of peace. Calm sedition. But I get why they didn't. That'd be extra molding and all that kind of jazz. So it's just whatever. But yeah, what do you think of these? Who do you think wears this mold the best? Because I think for me, I think it's either Ratchet or the Troopers. To be honest, and it might be the Troopers.
Yeah, I mean, Ratchet. If the horns had a bit more, if the paint was just more complete, I'd probably give it to Ratchet. But I think the Auto Trooper might take it.
Yeah.
Even with the tracks having some imperfections, it just kind of comes together better. And it's a shame because the Ironhide head sculpt is actually a really nice one, which hasn't none of these free repaints use it.
No, it's
which
good.
is kind of a surprise.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get us wrong. Again, this is perfectly usable for Ironhide. The problem was Ironhide was just orange.
Yeah.
If you sneezed orange paint onto a painting easel, you'd be like, "Oh, Ironhide's there. There he is."
Yeah,
that's about it.
I mean, kind of surprised that they didn't do either a proper G1 red repaint.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Or, given that we had Blur and Rodimus, he would have made a good reuse as cup because they did it in Prime. They used some of the Ironhide molds for Prime to the cup in Prime. So
I don't think I would have done that. I think I would have personally gone for the Earth mode Ratchet. It is a bit cheap to do it, to have like both of the old fat men robots be the same mold. But I think if you tweak it a little bit, gave it a little bit of a remold, I think you could probably get it to work to be
I can see
different.
that,
yeah. That would have been nice to have seen actually as well. It's a good call. But yeah, we never got I don't think Cup was ever drawn. I don't remember Cups ever popping up in the almanac or anything like that. Unless Mr. White wants to contradict us and tell us that he did pop up. I can't remember. This is a good mold. I will also throw out that the Ratchet version is better than, as a toy, better than the first version of Ratchet. It's a better figure, better mold, more fun to play with kind of thing.
Okay.
Would you disagree?
I mean, I've not handled either, but
yes.
It looks like a nicer figure than the Earth mode Ratchet did.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I prefer.
But then, I mean, it's a difference of like 1 to 2 years between the two figures, so that makes sense as well.
They definitely found their feet by this point with their figures. Like as we talked about last time, there's some figures that just aren't very good. Especially the Voyagers. Thankfully, when we get to the Voyagers are way better. Way better. This next one, or two, I suppose technically, was a really interesting idea and a nice nod to the super brave robots of like Cho Ryujin and Geki Ryujin from Gal Gaga. However, it doesn't entirely work. They're not great toys, unfortunately. This is one of the few animated figures sets, or just figures in general, that I just don't own. And I didn't buy them because Dave got them, and I played with them at Dave's house, and I went,
no.
These are my least favorite figures of the line. Jetfire and Jetstorm. And they combine together to make Safeguard. Safeguard being a very lame name. I also didn't really like their characters in the show from what their characters were, which wasn't much. The robot modes are pretty accurate to how they should look.
Yeah.
I think the issue is they have really fucking ugly arms and hands.
Yeah.
The arms and hands remind me of something similar to like a Micromaster kind of figure.
Yeah, they don't do much, do they, those hands? You can't really do anything with them. They're just there.
Yeah, the big old blocks, big old squares. I do think the color schemes are nice. As you can see in like the images as well, they have a tendency to be a little bit on the bow-legged side. And I'm not sure if... I think that's just because that the way that the thing transforms, some of the legs have to be a set of arms and a set of legs, so they just kind of spread apart anyway. I think that just kind of works that way. The jet modes are, they're a shape. They're a space jet that you're not really meant to think too hard about how they fly or anything like that.
I mean, they're very pretender jet modes, shall we say?
Yes, they are. Thankfully, they do a little bit more than a pretender jet. Thankfully.
Yes. You don't need to stick stuff on them because it all flips out. But
and they're mostly compact together. Mostly.
Yeah.
They look like a thing rather than some of the pretender things where you're like, oh, okay, you're trying. Whenever I think of pretenders that just don't really work, I think of Landmine, who just like throws his legs behind his head, and you go, there you go, he's done, and you're like,
I mean, that was pretty much all the core pretenders, wasn't it? They just do some crazy contortionism and
Cloud No, what was it? Cloudbreaker, Cloudburst? The red one?
Cloudburst, yeah.
He did a little bit more. He threw his legs behind his head.
Yeah.
And he also folded his arms down and then folded out the wings and had a nose cone between his balls. But yeah, like if you're talking about, oh God, what's his name? The submarine dude. He's just spread his legs.
Yeah, and then he gets the likes of Gunrunner who need a whole extra piece to actually become their vehicle mode.
Yeah, those vehicle ones are a bit more on the rough side because, like you say, you just need parts to make them.
I mean, I had Gunrunner and I liked him, but you didn't need him to make his vehicle mode.
No.
The drone would work on its own.
Yeah, I've got an incomplete Gunrunner, which I got back in the day when eBay became a thing, and I didn't know how much he was missing. So I have the Gunrunner, and I have the shell, and that's it. I don't have any of the extra weapons, and I don't have the main fucking piece.
Yeah, you haven't got the gun turret to form the jet, so the thing that lets him actually transform.
Yep. I was so fucking confused when I got it. I was like, he turns into a square. Why? I kept looking at it being like, am I meant to just be using my imagination for this? And then eventually I looked on, I can't remember what site. This was before the TF Wiki, I think. And I went,
oh, God damn it.
Because it's a huge piece.
It's massive.
It's way worse than Road Grabber. Road Grabber just has like two guns, which you just plop underneath him. Now, he doesn't make a very convincing jet, but he doesn't need an entire, huge, massive, stinking piece to form himself.
And it's a pain, because that turret actually does a lot. I mean, the guns pop in and out when the car moves, which is fun. It rotates, and it makes actually a really nice-looking jet fighter.
Well, yeah. So, granted, it's. I think when you look at that mode, it's almost the inverse of like the Silver Bolt, where the top piece is the jet again, and the bottom underside, which is ugly as shit, is the robot again that doesn't do anything. The difference is you could just have the jet piece on its own being a jet.
Yeah.
Mr. White says, I mean, a lot of characters turned up in the animated almanac, but not sure if Cup appeared in the show. I don't think. I get there were a lot of crowd shots, so who knows?
Yeah.
And Exelhead says, should have been an animated Beast Machines Jetstorm. I would have been down for that, to be honest. Also, Exelhead says, also Pretender Doubleheader was a decent jet.
Yeah, he needed a piece as well, though, from his backpack.
Yeah, he's like the second generation of Pretenders when they got a lot better. They still had issues, but they were a lot better. a lot better.
Yeah.
I still like Octopunch, even though he does require little crab legs for the side of his mode. It's like, oh, he's little orange crab boy.
I had the Scorpion dude, and he was fun.
Pincher. Because, of course, his name was Pincher.
And Bludgeon as well, I think. Yeah, I had Bludgeon.
Bludgeon's, I've still got Bludgeon. He's great. I mean, I bought him much later on. I can't remember how much I paid for him. Less than he's valued for now, I'm sure. So, when you get these figures together, they combine into Safeguard. And you can see what they're trying to do, and it's messy. Very messy. I don't personally like the color scheme either of orange and blue going together. I don't think it works desperately well. And I think Japan had already done it better back when they did Gaogaiga in, I think it was 97.
I mean, it's a cute callback. I appreciate the fact that they even made the effort to do this.
Yes.
Because it's not the normal type of combiner we'd normally see in Transformers.
No, not at all.
And it gets points for novelty, if nothing else. It's just the execution really. Part of me thinks that would it have worked better if they hadn't tried to flip the legs and the arms around to become the opposite and just kept. I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah, because you have the issue of the standard Jetstorm and the other jet arms just. They're in a random shape on the back, and they don't peg anywhere. They don't really add much flair. They're just there. Like you said, the legs have to serve. Both of their legs have to serve as both arms and legs of Safeguard. which Mr. White says Jetstorm. I think he meant Safeguard. Safeguard skipped leg day because his legs are super thin, especially compared to his arms. So the proportions look wonky. And you can see a massive gap just running between the two.
Yeah.
So even the point of them like coming together didn't completely mesh as a thing. There's a really obvious, visible gap between these things.
Yeah, it's a real shame. It's a really fun idea.
Yeah.
And for colors, they don't mesh, but I think that's kind of the point.
I think there are better colors that you can slap together that don't mesh.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I like the what's it called? It's a Geki Ryujin, which is like a green side and a red side. And there's the blue side and the yellow side as well. And they're not the standard color combinations, but they're kind of a nice like tweaking of the colors. So I think this might have worked better if the orange one was yellow, because yellow and blue would always kind of work well off each other.
So maybe just inverted colors, maybe instead of what this is.
I guess
Actually, that could have worked. Yeah.
You could have just changed the orange to yellow, and I think it might have worked a little bit better potentially.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not sure. Yeah, but I've skipped this. There's also a combined vehicle mode, which is where you just kind of put the top you just stack them effectively, bottom to bottom, balls to balls, like they're hugging in jet mode. It's not great. It's just it was an idea, and I think that's what this was.
Yes.
This felt more like a season 1 kind of figure. This is not like as egregious as say like Starscream. For me, it feels like there's a reason why this didn't kind of pan out, because they were trying to do something very unique. But Starscream, they just fucked it up. They were just stupid with Starscream.
I think that's a very safe. So not safe. That's a very good way to put it. That this was experimenting.
Yeah.
The others were just poorly executed.
It's just, what were you doing? No excuse. This one I can let slide. This one also came with a comic book, Rise of Safeguard, so an introduction to the character. I don't know why, but sure, why not? I guess it was to justify the price.
Yeah, because it was a double pack. It was... I mean, I saw it in a few places, and it didn't really seem to move, to be fair.
No, I think people looked at the figures and went, ew. And I think they looked at the back and saw the combined mode and again went, ew.
Yeah.
No, passed on it. I wonder how rare this one is now. Did people pass on it enough to make it, quote unquote, rare? Like E.T. on the Atari, Is that a collector's item now because of how many were just buried in the garbage tips?
I generally don't know on that one.
It might be. Imagine that's like £1,000 now for E.T. on the Atari.
That'd be a massive irony if it went from sinking Atari to almost killing the video game industry in its nascent state. To
I'm sure. I'm sure. I remember there were documentaries of like people going to landfill tips and they were just digging up E.T. games.
Because they overproduced it by so much. They had so many left over that all they could do was bury them. There was nothing else they could do with the damn things.
It's hilarious. Poor E.T.
It really was. Yeah.
Yeah, you look at it and you're like, come on.
I mean, the game was crap. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I saw Angry Video Game Nerd play it ages ago, like whenever he did his video. I was like, holy shit, this is... Oh, my God. Oh, my God. XL Head says, hear me out, Safeguard with a unified color scheme. I still think it would suffer from the mold.
Yeah.
The mold has too many issues, but if you had a coherent color scheme, it would help bring it together a little bit more. He would still have fucking wonky proportions, though. Very wonky. But yeah, there's probably the biggest failing of the animated line. One that wasn't a failing is Swindle. Very characterful Swindle.
Yeah, Swindle's great.
Very odd hands, though.
Yes.
His entire forearms were slightly bizarre.
Yeah, but he didn't really need them because he had a huge honking cannon, didn't he?
Yes, he had Megatron's fusion cannon, as everybody said. One of the... Oh, am I going to say this? No, I'm happy to say this. I think one of the best head sculpts in the line. It looks directly from the show.
Swindle.
Yeah. I don't think they could have got the head sculpt any better. It's got really good expression. It's the shape is right, the proportions are right, the light piping is done really well.
Yeah.
Spot on. It's quality.
It is. I mean, this is one that I made a point to track down maybe 10, 12 years ago.
Oh, really?
I wanted a Swindle in my collection, and this version was just so good.
Yeah.
And I've kept hold of it because it's just a great figure overall, really.
I think one of the issues I didn't like too much about it were the forearm parts, which are clearly the front of the car mode. They're on little hinges, aren't they? They kind of hinge forward.
Yeah, they're not brilliant.
No, they're what you call ugly. They're you fine. Yeah. You can deal with it, but they're not the prettiest things. And I think he's got a lot of translucent plastic. Are his thighs translucent? I can't remember. They look it here in the image. But I'm not sure if that's
look it, don't they? I can't remember, but I think they might be. Yeah,
I think they might be because if you look at his his shoulder and his shoulders and the top of his bicep, that's translucent plastic. So it's like
that's a lot of arm hold on to translucent. That makes me worried now.
Yeah, and if you think about it, if you look how is that elbow joint connected? That's a pin. That's a pin going through two very thin bits of translucent plastic.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. It might be fine. He might be. It's okay. It's okay. It's still good. It's still good.
It's fine. He's in a box in alt mode somewhere, so it's fine. It's fine. As long as I don't touch it, it's fine. Yeah.
Did it have a gimmick where you shot the missile that the
missile? So the cannon does fire a missile.
Yeah. It changed the red from like red to white, didn't it, to show that fired? I think. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was. So again, nice little feature, simple one, but neat.
And you've got the wonderful gut gun.
Yes, the attack mode as it's called. So he has a Gatling gun in his tummy, which is great, and then he has the over-the-shoulder things, which I can't remember what they did. They were like electromagnets or something, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. So again, extra features in the figure, yeah, very cool. And he turned into a, again, really successful little armored vehicle, SUV, if you would, from the interesting-ish episode. He did have the issue of clearly having the things on the front of his forearms were clearly painted, so it's a little off color-wise. But again, this was a good figure. Even though looking back at it now, everybody can have a slight panic, I suppose, about will he die? Who knows?
Yeah.
And Exelhead says, Swindle, voiced by the Boogeyman. Was he voiced by? It was Will Friedle? Not Will. This wasn't Will Friedle. What was his name? Mr. White, you know things. What was his name? He'll put a thing down at some point. I don't think. Maybe it was Will Friedle. I think in my mind I'm saying Will Friedle, but my brain's going Will Farrell. Will Farrell? And I'm like, it's not Will Farrell. Will Farrell? No. I'm saying Friedel brain, and then my brain's just showing me pictures of Will Farrell.
Honestly, a Will Farrell take on Swindle could be genuinely funny.
Only if he had a robot dog named Baxter.
See, one thing I do like about Swindle is how
Fred Willard. Fred Willard. Thank you, Mr. White. I was nearly there. My intentions were true. What were you going to say, Big D? Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, looking at the head sculpt, it's really nice how they've managed to get, I don't know if it's intentional, but how they've managed to get pupils inside the translucent.
Yes,
and
really
they're very OTT pupils as well. It's great.
It's one of the few times I think they've done it for translucent like eyes and stuff. I don't think it's a relatively often thing. I think it's more rare than anything else. So yeah, again, neat little thing. The Swindle figure was never touched.
Yeah, another surprise. But,
yeah, it's a good one, but never touched it again.
Yeah.
Not even for G2 repaint.
I mean, I'm kind of surprised that the fan club didn't take it to do a Hound repaint.
Oh, yeah, that could have worked. I could see that. That would have been interesting. Well, they only had so many figures they could have done for BotCon, I suppose. Yeah. And I guess they didn't want to go too heavy on animated, though they should have. I think they really should have gone heavy on the animated figures because it was still solid. XL Hedge says, we got the animated Stunticons, but no Combaticons. Sad cry. Yeah.
Combaticons, that could have
Animated
been
Combaticons. Who could he have done for the other guys, though?
I mean, there wasn't really anything in the line that he could
No.
have substituted.
I'm
I mean,
trying to think, what could he have done for Onslaught? Because he would need to be Voyager or bigger.
I mean, that would have had to have been Ultra Magnus. There was nothing else that was even comparable.
And Bocon wouldn't do that because they wouldn't do leader toys because it was just too expensive for them to do.
Yeah, even stripping out of the electronics, you just no.
It's too big. It's too much money, too much plastic.
I mean, I remember seeing that Ultra Magnus figure in Toys R Us, and it's effing huge.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to him. He's a big boy. We got Waspinator next. Mutant Waspinator, the bug version. We still don't have normal Wasp yet. We're going to get him relatively soon.
Finally.
Yeah. This one was is how I would describe him. Yeah. I don't remember in the show, did he have yellow on him or was it green as well? Because there's no yellow on this Waspinator. Even as soon as I got this figure, I was like, this should be yellow, right? But I can't remember in the show if it was yellow or not. It might have been green. How much too much green? I'm
not sure. It might just be that they shifted the color a bit too much into the green spectrum rather than the yellow. It's always been a bit of an odd one with Wasp because he wasn't a one-to-one take on Beast Wars Waspinator. He always had a very distinct, much more green to his palette. So,
Mr. White says, I think he was green in the show. Yeah. I guess then this is accurate. I don't remember having a lot of fond memories of this figure. I've still got it, but I remember that my feeling of this figure, and I don't know how accurate it was, but when I think back to it, I think he just kind of falls over and he tucks his arms in and his arms split in half, and that's about it.
That does kind of look at how he does it, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he does much more than that. I know you can see he's got a little lever on his back so he can make his wings flap. That's, it's fine. It's not too obtrusive or anything like that. But I don't remember ever having a lot of fun with this figure.
No.
Just because he wasn't very interesting.
It doesn't look particularly stable either.
You mean in robot mode?
Yeah, there's a lot of weight on those very thin ankles.
Yeah, because he's got that big ass and then the wing gimmick as well. I don't think the robot mode looks bad. It looks accurate to how it should do. I don't remember it transforming and being like, yeah, let's do it again. It's just like he's a bug now. Woo. Do it again. XL Head says he had the same shade of green as Wasp, no yellow. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's accurate then. I don't think this figure was remolded or reused. No, it was just a one-time use. I think the best thing about it is the head sculpt's really nice. I'll give it that.
Yes, yeah. Nice head sculpt.
The mutant arms, like it's the four fingers on each side of the hand, like little claws. Oddly enough, very much like Dinobots from Beast Wars kind of hand design in some ways. But I don't think this was a good transforming playing figure.
No, it looks like it's all aesthetics and no fun.
Yeah, sadly. Like if this was in season 1, the season or the wave 1 of toys, I'd be like, yeah, it feels more like one of those toys than one of the newer, better kind of designed ones, I'd say. Like Samurai Prowl, who is a very chunky boy. He's not entirely accurate proportionally to how he looked in the show because the sidecar. It added a lot, and there's only so much you can do. However, the mold for just Prowl is pretty similar, from what I remember, to the first version of Prowl. So it's almost like a slight retool, more so than a completely new design, but I can't remember entirely. He had his sidecar, which they don't show a good shot of here for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's odd. You'd have thought they'd have done that vehicle mode from the other angle, to be fair.
Yeah, that's the smart, sensible thing to do, but they didn't do it. But, fuck the sidecar. Yeah. But he does have a sidecar, and the sidecar explodes into the Samurai Prowl armor, which a little bit awkwardly hangs off of him, if I remember. Yeah. It's more of a visual piece. I don't remember how secure it is to hold on to him. It's okay, I suppose. He also comes with his wrist wheel blade. Is that what you call it?
Well, they've charitably called it a sword.
I mean, it is a blade, so I guess it's true. It doesn't hold it like a sword because it's not feasible to hold it like a sword. But XL Head says, speaking of Samurai Prowl, have you seen the Samurai Chromia kit from DNA? I have.
Yeah.
That feels like a lazy repaint. I wish they'd remolded some of it to make it more.
I mean, they've done some different stuff. Like they've given you the canopy to put on the bike, and he doesn't come with a helmet. So
True, but
they've done.
It doesn't feel like it's enough to like.
Yeah,
you put them next to each other, it feels like it's just the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I'm glad I have that kit for Legacy Prowl, but
do you really need it for her? I doubt it.
Well, I don't even have that Chromia figure, and I don't know if I'd want that kit if I did, to be honest.
No, I don't.
Because it doesn't really feel right.
No, I don't think Chromia should be a heavily armored, samurai-esque designed character.
I've no problem with her being heavily armed. Heavily armored is a different thing entirely.
True. Mr. White says Prowl was a beautiful figure. I still have a spare figure I aim to rework into a Tron bike. That would have just generally been a nice idea.
Yeah.
How long have you had that figure, Mr. White? Out of interest? I think that could have worked though. If you want to do, well, I think the figure's too old to do a crossover kind of figure thing with it now, but that could have been pretty interesting, to be fair. It's a neat idea. But yeah, I am. The Prowl feels like, I don't know. I can't remember if this is how it felt like when he originally came out, but I'm pretty sure he transformed in a very similar manner to the original version. So it felt more like a paying for the figure again, but with more accessories.
Yeah, I mean, the description says it's basically a remold from the original release, which tracks.
Yeah,
to be fair.
Yeah, they probably just remolded parts so parts could hang off him effectively.
Yeah, I mean,
which makes sense.
It's not the worst way to get someone to double dip, because I mean, no one knew this was really.
No one had any idea that this was going to happen.
Yeah, so, and it's nice that they actually made it available.
Do you think it would have been better if he was in a different color scheme, like he got the upgrade and he color schemed, shifted? Because then it would have been a repaint as well.
Yeah, that. Do you think maybe if he had turned into the classic G1 Prowl colors?
Oh yeah, that could have been interesting.
White and black.
That could have been interesting. I wouldn't have been against that.
That could have been neat.
Yeah,
that would have been a neat touch.
I'm guessing they just wanted to keep the color palette, because how each character had like Prime was red, Ratchet was white and blue, Bulkhead was green. Maybe they just wanted to keep those colors in that lineup consistent, I guess. But I wouldn't
especially at that stage of production, because they knew that they weren't getting a season 4 at that point, so they were probably limited in what they could actually do. Probably. It's a shame, because I think this would actually have looked really good in mainly white. I could have.
And the original toy looked good in white, so I can't see why this wouldn't have as well.
Yeah, and thematically, there's a shift from the black, mainly black as a ninja, into the samurai all in white. That's a very dramatic shift that tells a character story there as well, that he's kind of coming out of the shadows.
Yeah, so become the light version of himself. Yeah. Yeah, that would have made sense to me.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things. Mr. White says decades, millennia before time began, there was the Prowl.
Epochs have passed.
Then we cut to a boat in the Antarctic with Mr. White on it, fall into a cave, finding the legendary Prowl figure. I'm going to repaint you into a Tron bike. Hundreds of years later, his great descendant puts him on eBay. As he does. XL Head says, I actually found Samurai Prowl in package at my local flea market, but I had to pass because the seller was charging bot-con prices for it. How long ago was this, XL Hedge? Is it like recent? And when you say bot-con prices, like Like what are we talking about? How much?
BotCon exclusive prices or
Yeah.
BotCon dealer prices?
BotCon set prices, which would be like 250 for the BotCon set. What are we talking about, baby? You gotta let us know. I'm interested now. But yeah, like you say, it was a way of double dipping. It was a repaint, but not really a repaint, but a remold, but not really a remold. It was Prowl 2.5 or 1.5, a slight upgrade.
It's a figure that if I ever get a chance, I would like to own this version just because it's got that liveness of animated Prowl, and the armor actually does look really good.
You know what would have been funny? If with Prowl in the future, what they did was they Batmaned him. So they just kept releasing the exact same figure, but they gave him different sidecars each time.
You know what? That would actually have been really fun. I could
Samurai Prowl, Ninja Master Prowl, Viking Prowl, Conquistador
Archer Prowl.
Yeah, I like the idea of Conquistador Prowl. That I would have almost been down with that, and you could give him slightly different color schemes as well to make him pop. Yeah, there you go. That would be silly. Next up, we have the Dinobots. Dinobots. We're going to start with, I think it's fair to say the worst one first. Is that fair?
Yes.
Snarl. Yeah, he's very much a brick. I do not remember super enjoying how he transforms, as you kind of just unfold his head and just kind of pull him backwards a little bit. I think when that's right, you pull the shoulders up and they slightly cover his head, don't they? They don't fully cover his little head in Triceratops mode. And the Triceratops has a beak, a translucent beak, which is odd visually.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not as good as the other two, but I definitely remember not having as much fun with him. I don't think he has like super dynamic like elbow movement either. I'm pretty sure they curve a little bit, but I don't think he's got like even a full 90-degree bend. But if you want to fact check me, I'm happy to be fact checked.
I mean, he's for one of these three that I always passed on with no hesitation. I owned one of the other two, and the other one I quite often contemplated when I saw it on hooks. Other things took my fancy, but this one I just no. I mean, I actually like the Triceratops in terms of how it looks like it has some more articulation than you expect for a Triceratops beast mode, especially at this price point. But for robot mode, man, that's it's one of those things. If the Dinobots are one of the sublines where all three of them could probably benefit from being the Voyager price point, just to get the engineering in that they needed.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been against that. It's just the line. I mean, the line didn't have a huge amount of Voyager space, I suppose. So it's just who we're going to shift. It's just these guys.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, we'll get to it, but I would have been okay with Wreck-Gar being a deluxe and maybe Snarl being a Voyager, to be honest. If I had to switch one around. Like, because of how, like, I think Snarl was, granted, it didn't have any fucking lines, but he was in it. I'm sure he was in it more than Weird Al was. I'm sure. Oh, Excel Hedge lets us know. Apparently, his Samurai Prowl that he found was 2 years ago and was over $100. Woof. So it's not BotCon priced for a set, but it's definitely BotCon prices for like an individual figure.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of rough, bro. One thing I will say about the Snarl, I like that it came with a big old Cheeto club.
Yes, yeah.
It wasn't painted.
That was cute.
It was meant to be painted, obviously. And it was just a hollow bit of translucent Cheeto plastic. It looks bizarre on its own, especially when you compare it to the other two. The other two have theirs painted, so this one is just like devoid and looks very odd.
But you could plug into his mouth, couldn't you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes. I think you could, but I'm not entirely sure. It says he didn't get reused, but I thought there was a purple version of this for the movie line.
Ooh. I don't know on that score.
Do you know what I'm talking about? If you swapped out the red for purple.
They might have done that with one of the Cybertron. So Cybertron had a Triceratops as well, didn't it? That had a slightly odd those equally blocky. So
Chat, fact check me. Did this figure get repainted and TFU just doesn't tell us, or not? Oh, also he had the shitty gimmick, didn't he, where his little shoulder pads had the fire effects as being very generous, but the fire effects pop up from the side of them.
yeah, it does just look like he's blinged his shoulders, doesn't it?
Yeah, the way I look at it is like, your gas stoves.
The pilot light.
Oh, yeah, he's turned on the pilot light. Get ready, boys. He's on fire. Woo!
Yeah.
I do like his cute little stupid face, so that's good. I think they nailed the design there, right? It's just not very interesting. Not bad, but like if I was going to give a score, like more of the 4 out of 10 kind of thing, below average, like, especially compared to Swoop, who I do like. I think Swoop's really cool. He has issues in his own right. Was this the one that you'd look at and consider, or was this one of the no?
This was one I considered a lot.
Yeah.
And then when I could actually do it, he was offset. He wasn't available.
Swoop's pretty good. He's got weird decisions for how his joints work, kind of problems, and I wouldn't say that he has the best transformation either. But I liked how thin Swoop was, and he's a very slender boy for obvious reasons. He doesn't have, he does and doesn't have monkey arms. He does and doesn't. He has shoulder joints, which I'm pretty sure rotate, even though it doesn't look like they do. And below that, the shoulder joint, he has a ball joint going into a bicep that then leads down into a ball joint that goes into the forearm. The forearm, that is not an elbow bend. But because of how the ball joint at the top of the shoulder has been done, you still get a 90-degree elbow bend.
Yeah.
It's just a weird position for it, and it looks, again, a little on the ugly side. And then the way that his legs are jointed as well, he's got a pin going through his thigh, and has a hinge joint that leads into a ball joint at the bottom of it. And that's to facilitate how the legs bend in pterodactyl mode. So it does work. It's just all a little bit on the ugly side,
Yeah, it's genuinely some really genuinely interesting engineering going on. It's just the fact that you can see so much of it is kind of bit of a head scratch. It's almost like they don't expect the robot mode to be the selling point for this one.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
Which is
because the dinosaurs.
Because it is a very pretty dinosaur mode.
Yeah, he's also got.
Like how,
oh, sorry. What's that?
No, I was going to say, I do though like how they've managed to get across how lanky the robot mode is. That's actually quite nice.
Yeah, I think they were almost snookered with the design because he is very, 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 very thin in the show.
Oh, yes.
And how do you translate that? I think this is, I mean, it probably could be better done now, but still a very difficult thing to do. I'm pretty sure like his wings are on a big old bit of plastic on his backpack, which you could detach and you had to shift up and down. So I don't think his wings were desperately pretty either. I wish we had a better shot of the pterodactyl mode because they'd have an awkward shot from the side. I'm pretty sure the head is quite nice. And the arms do peg into the wings. I don't think they flap, though, from what I remember. They don't flap desperately easily. And he does come with a mace. I don't think you can peg that in, but it's actually been painted so it looks like a ball of lava that you can swing around, unlike the big old translucent Cheeto, at the very least. Mr. White says, the Swoop's big old ball and chain. That's true. That's it. I always thought it was meant to do something, because there were like lines or grooves in the ball, but I think that was just for the bits of translucent plastic more so than if it do anything,
Yeah, sounds about right.
But this guy wasn't reused either, it seems.
No.
Interesting design. He's very thin, a very unique head sculpt because it's, again, very Sam the Eagle. At least in the mold. Looks a little bit Sam the Eagle-y. I'd say this one was okay. It's better than Snarl, at least.
Yeah.
Do you have anything on him, Big D?
Not at all, just that I do kind of wish I'd managed to pick this one up at some point.
Is it on the list for the future?
It might have to be. If I ever get to a TF Nation, I might have to just do a scroll through the toy food tables just for some of the.
Mr. White, out of interest, do you recall the last time you were at TF convention, how prevalent animated figures were? Because I remember a good couple of years ago, they were very difficult to get. Are they still difficult to get? If you've noticed, if you recall, let me know, because I'd be interested to know, and clearly Big D would like to know as well. So you could pick some stuff up. The last of the Dinobots and the first of the Voyagers is Grimlock. Grimlock's probably the best of the Dinobots, the least awkward. His biceps or like elbow joint area looks a little bit on the wonky side, and it is. But it transforms kind of how you would expect Grimlock to transform, and forms a pretty solid, not too complex T-Rex mode. That looks fairly convincing. Especially with the animated design.
Absolutely. It kind of nails all the animated aesthetics of both modes, which I've always loved about this particular figure. In fact, it's actually the only Voyager class animated figure I own.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah. It was kind of a phase where I was kind of dipping in and out of certain lines if I had a character I had a fondness for, and it's Grimlock. I've always loved Grimlock. So it was like, okay, that's my animated figure for this year.
Do you remember much about him, or what your thoughts on him were?
Okay, I like how the leg transformation from beast mode to the robot mode arms, how the joints actually slide inside the tops of the thighs.
Yeah, I think it's a nice idea. I think it looks a bit weird in robot mode.
Yeah, it doesn't always work, but it's one of those things where it's a fun thing that they've tried something different. I like how the robot mode has a real caveman feel to it. He looks very, you know what I mean? He's got that, that kind of brute approach to him. It's a great head sculpt.
Oh yeah,
I love the very orky lower jaw. That's great.
Yeah, it's like the Swindle figure. I don't think they could have done much better in transitioning over from 2D to 3D. Yeah,
I mean, the sword is quite nice. I mean, the way the more flames pop out the side.
Yeah, it was, you plugged the hand in, you plugged the sword in, right? And then you twisted it at the wrist, and something about twisting the wrist popped up the extra fire pieces. Yeah,
there's like a switch in, because the sword plugs into the hand, and there's some mechanisms inside that go mesh together. It's fun, and you can get a real nice barbarian sword above his head pose out of him, which was how I had him on display for a long time, to be fair, because it just looked great. And the beast mode is, again, it's great. It's actually, I never had any issues with doing stuff with it. It could, if you went beyond a certain point, you could struggle sometimes with the balance. But once you hit it had a nice broad sweet spot to play around in. So
that sounds familiar. Yeah, I think you're spot on there. Yeah. Mr. White says, after a huge rush on them, animated now represent a small chunk at every event, but don't last long.
Not surprised there.
So you do have a chance, Big D, potentially.
The biggest challenge is for me to actually get to a TF Nation at some point.
Yeah, you and Mr. White need to meet and hold hands and kiss and do all that other kind of stuff together.
I mean, how did you know what we did when we went to Surfman Planet?
Wow, it's just you need to do it for a longer period of time. You'll also have a hotel room, Just saying. XLHead says, animated Snarl was given the purple Age of Extinction color scheme for the RID toy. I knew it. I knew that fuck had been used for something. Thank you. Adventure Slug is a redeco of animated Snarl, transforming into a robotic Triceratops with a color scheme based on this. I'm guessing this is a description from whoever wrote up this thing. Age of Extinction namesake. He doesn't come with Snarl's club, however. Oh, he doesn't come with a Cheeto. That's interesting. I knew I'd seen that fucker in purple, though. I fucking knew it. I just hadn't listed it down because it was adventures, and obviously TFU's, I think, abandoned. So,
and what I just remembered about that Snarl figure as well. All the promo artwork, all the promo images for it have the club painted.
Yes. I remember that as well. Now that you said it.
And it looks really good painted as well.
Yeah, yeah. I think the Japanese version was painted, but don't hold me on that.
Yeah.
Mr. White says, if you need anything, D, I'm at TFN Manchester in 3 weeks. Kissy face. He didn't say kissy face. I put that in because it was implied. I'm what you call the butter man. I smooth things out between love affairs, you know? I am the grease between your thighs.
I thought you were going to say that I'm there to provide the lube whenever you need it.
Well, yeah. Have you heard of the equalizer? They call me the facilitator. That's my Valentine's Day name, the facilitator. I come in with condoms. I come in with everything you need. Even if you don't want me there, I'm there. I can't remember if Grimlock got a recolor. Again, he might have, but if he did, it's not here. There was a redo clearly of the Activators Grimlock into if you scroll down into like a magma version, which actually looks pretty nice, to be honest.
Yeah, it does really, doesn't it?
I'm not sure, like, there are the elements of the dinosaur mode where he's got the kind of gradient back I don't like, but I like the head, how the top half of the head's orange and the jaw's black, and then the neck's got like this magma cracking along it. I think that bit's nice.
I do like how the regular Activators version of him does seem to have, it's got more paint than the Voyager version as well. Which is weird.
You're not allowed to say that.
Activators was weird like that though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where it was this weird line that somehow had really good paint jobs and some really nice figures in, but was a ball ache to find anywhere. It didn't scale with anything.
At least with in the UK, I don't think these came very easily to us. Not that I remember.
No.
I think all the ones I got, Nicole sent over to me. But yeah, again, the Activators line was really for what it was, which wasn't much of a line. It's pretty interesting. It wasn't too bad. Perfect line for like young kids, I suppose. So it's a very cheapo toy. I'd argue a little bit more satisfying than some of the garbage toy lines that the kids get today. Maybe more comparable to them though, but they were cheap at the very least, you know. So you can get away with it. Next up, we've got Lugnut, little tiny baby Lugnut. Lugnut, obviously in the show, in animated, known for being the smallest Transformer, right? Oh wait, no. We had another bulkhead situation here.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because this figure's, again, pretty good.
Yeah, it looks great.
It's like if you didn't say how big this figure was and you just assumed it was like leader scale, you'd be like, oh wow, that's perfect. That's exactly what I would want from a Lugnut. And then you put it next to the rest of the line and it's smaller than a good portion of the deluxes. It's smaller than. Or similar height at the very least. It's smaller than Lockdown. Definitely smaller than Lockdown mold.
Yeah, but a lot of the line's smaller than Lockdown, let's be honest.
No, this is I think comparable to Voyager Bulkhead.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because
it's a good mold.
And Lugnut was kind of like, along with Bulkhead, breakout characters from the show because Lugnut, he transferred across to he got a universe figure.
Reveal the Shield. But yes, Universe Reveal whatever the fuck the line was called. That was a really good figure too. I got that at the Ross store, so I got it for cheap as shit.
Ooh, jammy son.
My one time one of my last times in America.
but yeah, it's kind of a shame really that he was restricted to that smaller scale because a leader class version of this would have just been
just like Bulkhead.
Spectacular, yeah.
Yeah. I think the reason it was shunted down, obviously just because of how much space it had. I think the reason it was as small as it was because of the mace, which is cool and it's necessary for the vehicle mode. Yeah, but I think that kind of stuff probably ate up some of the size budget potentially. Maybe.
Yeah.
I will say like both modes are great. The bomber mode is pretty spot on. I don't think again you could have had much better success with how that turned out. And the robot mode again proportionally work pretty well. You could argue how well the hands are done. It's a reasonably simple transformation. There is automorphing in it though, so but it's not. It doesn't feel as obtrusive. It's more like you pull the big back piece down and the front cone splits open and the head rotates round. Nothing doesn't work like with Starscream where you do it. They're just ugly pieces all over the shop on him. He doesn't have the punch of kill everything attack, which I know I and many others were not desperately happy about. The mace had a gimmick where you plugged it into the front of his hand because he had a little Armada Micromaster port, which is how that one worked. And then there is a teeny weeny button on the bottom of the mace where you slammed it down on the ground, or you lightly pressed it, and then the sides of the engines would pop open. So it's like a big charged up version of it. Not quite sure what it was referencing, but it was a thing that you could do. So, okay, well, fair enough.
Yeah.
And it did get a repaint into Atomic Lugnut, which I didn't get and kind of regret because the color scheme's pretty good. Though I wish they went a little bit further with it, to be honest. They went to, what colors? Gray, black, and they gave him the tiger shark on the side of the mouth, and also put a Atomic logo on the hammer, the mace thing.
Yeah, that's a really nice color scheme.
Yeah. I kind of wish there was a bit more color over the gray. He's almost gone a little bit too movie Blackout color scheme, if you know what I mean.
I was gonna say he kind of mirrors Blackout.
Yeah, I think that's the same color plastic they use for the movie toy, or almost a similar tone. Yeah. It's in my eyes. It might be a little bit off. It might. Yeah, thinking about it, Blackout might be a bit bluer.
It's a very similar tone to movie Blackout, certainly. Yeah.
Again, you can pick which version of movie Blackout because there were repaints of him. But yeah, you get what I mean.
Yeah,
I like the redo of the Decepticon insignia where it's black with the gold outline. That's quite nice as well. I don't know whether it's meant to be an Elite Guard version, like the Elite versions of the Decepticons had that symbol, or if it was just for the sake of doing it. But yeah, Atomic Lugnut was pretty nice. Reveal the Shilong Trio. It's just the problem was he was too small. That's it. That was his worst, unfortunately, defining feature. Boy was too small. Everything else was quality on him. And I think he was better than Bulkhead, the Voyager Bulkhead.
Yeah.
He had more articulation. Yeah, I think he did have a bit more articulation to him. Not a huge amount more. I'm not crazy, but a little bit more. And he had a big weapon rather than like the balls being stuck in his hands and having to be popped out and pulled back in. Like he just had a legitimate hammer, so that worked there.
Yeah, it's a really nice looking figure. That it's just a shame it's a size class too small.
Pretty much. Rekka, Weird Al Yankovic. Pretty good head sculpt again on him. Always thought the proportions felt it a bit strange. Did you ever have this one, BD?
I didn't. I do remember though. Anytime I see pictures of it, I think there's something just slightly off compared to the animation model.
Yeah, and I can never put exactly what it is down. He does have a big old garbage truck hanging off of his back, so that obviously is a bit of an issue in itself. I don't think he does a lot of transforming either, but he does make a very good like garbage truck.
Yeah, it was a fun interpretation of Retgar, to be honest.
Yes.
To actually see him back in a mainline show.
And not a bike. What's on a bike? Is it the first must be the first garbage truck transformer we ever had. Must be.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is, yeah.
The only thing that maybe would come close is like if there was a GoBot garbage truck. Because GoBot probably would have been a garbage truck.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a GoBot garbage truck.
Must have. Yeah. Transformers, I don't think had them. I think Transformers tried to be too cool and were like, who wants to play with the garbage truck? It's like, yeah. I do. They gave him the big forklifts. I remember I don't think you had to use them, but you could use them as like extra back stilts to like give them extra balance. And I'm not entirely sure or can't remember if they were necessary to hold him up. I remember they were useful.
Yeah, I mean, he does have some nice, big, chunky feet. Chunkier than a lot of the animated line, to be fair. So he may not have needed them as much, but they would have helped, I imagine. That's a big backpack.
Yeah, he's in like on my shelf. He's probably pressed up against the wall, I assume. I'm assuming. He did come with weird blades as well, which there's a big push switch, push lever on the garbage truck mode. You'd push them up, and then the little blades would kind of slide off the top, and you'd pull them out, which was a bit of a weird feature. And weird wrist blades didn't really scream Wreck-Gar. I don't remember him using them in the show, but he might have. But yeah, it was a bit weird. Exelhead says, "Where's Titan Lugnuts? Supreme at Hasbro." Great question. And Mr. White says, Wreck-Gar was a shell former. Oh, yes. But he had so much character in bot mode.
Yeah.
I think for me, I like the head mold, but I'm not a big fan of like the overall body shape, generally speaking. He feels a bit robot generic-y, and his feature are his head's nice and unique, and then he's got a garbage truck on his back. And then for the rest of his robot mode, it doesn't do a lot for me. It almost feels bland robot ban, you know?
I can see that. I can understand that.
Yeah. Not bad. Just kind of, you know. XLHead says he talks TV because his head's a TV. That's true. Yeah. Or, if you wanted, you could say his head almost looks like a microwave, which would be a reference to the Dare to Be Stupid music video. Was it his head in a microwave? I know someone's head was in a microwave, but I don't remember if it was Weird Al's head in the microwave, or if it was just one of the other random people in the music video.
I can't remember. No, I know it's you can stick your head in a microwave
and get yourself turned. Yeah, I think it might have been him, but it might have been someone else as well. Either way, Wreck-Gar didn't do a huge amount for me. Oh, they actually have the Japanese version here.
Yeah, so I like these. I like these Japanese colors though. It's a lot more vibrant.
Yeah. I wonder which part was chromed. Was his chest? Because it's again for some reason. Oh no, it wasn't chrome, was it? It was they had like a really reflective metallic paint. I think that's what it was. Yeah, so yeah, there's probably like he's got much more reflective boobage. Oh yeah, that's what you could do. You could also have the forklift picks also being like little pokey, stabby things as well for the robot mode,
which is cute.
Yeah, just to annoy someone. You want to die, and just get poked. Yeah. Oh, my ribs. Oh, my ribs. What a world. What a horrible world. No other redos of Wreck-Gar. I think we were basically shoved into the time now where there's like barely any repaints. Or very few. Yeah. Well, I mean, apart from this one got a repaint, but we'll get to it. Probably one of the more interesting, maybe one of the best. One of the best Voyages.
I think that's a reasonable assessment. Yeah,
this felt like this one specifically. Obviously, if you're watching the stream, you know who I'm talking about. This one felt a bit like Safeguard, where it was an experimental figure, but this one actually paid off, and it's Shockwave. Yeah, Shockwave or Long Arm, because obviously, he might have been a different character in the show. Long Arm has a few proportional issues in his robot mode, like his legs are very close together. Like, he ain't going to be squeezing out no baby. But I wish his forehead eye stored away a little bit better. I'm pretty sure it did. But I'm guessing from these images, clearly it doesn't. He could turn into an H-tank, but with the H-tank pointing up, and without a turret, he has a crane. Kind of like the shape of Cybertron Ironhide that we were talking about earlier. However Big D described it.
Kind of a fun little touch that, but just like changing the cannon to a crane, kind of gives it a slightly different vibe.
Yep, and then you flatten it out and then turn the crane into a gun, and it's a standard H-tank, which fine. But more importantly, it turned into Shockwave with a really, again, pretty cool design.
Yeah, really, he was a really creepy mother as well.
Yeah. The only thing I didn't like about this design was the color scheme, which they then fixed for the repaint. Because the color scheme was the long arm color scheme, which was mostly gray and black. You also had a Autobot Decepticon insignia, which you could flip around on his chest. His hands were really neat how they transformed, as he used Long Arm's normal hands as basically one finger of Shockwave's hands.
Yeah.
As the other two kind of came around and formed like almost like a pinchy claw kind of hand, which was pretty neat. There was lots of little flares that you'd use to. He grew in length massively when he turned to Shockwave as well. So he grew massive, which the Decepticons were always meant to be bigger. You had panel switches switched around in the tread, so you got these extra little grey bits. The hands changed. The Autobot face vanished, and then the white bits on the side of the face flipped upwards directly to give the Shockwave horns. Very, very interesting. Very cool how they did it.
And I think now. Did you have this toy?
I have both versions. I have this and the purple version.
So, because I didn't, but I always found it really interesting looking at it for what it did. Now, my question is, in the Shockwave mode, it looks really lanky and creepy. I can see in here that it looks like they've used the cannon barrel to help stabilize him. Is he a fairly stable figure to stand?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is because he's got no backpack. Because that cannon is just on a peg because you just peg it into his hand. You see on his on his hand, he's got these two ports. You just peg the cannon into that.
That's very cool. I dig that.
I don't remember him having any issues. Now, obviously, if his hips give out, like any Transformer really, like he'll go down. But I don't remember him having any problems standing. Axel Head says Shockwave gave an excuse to both paint schemes. Yeah, because he did change color schemes in the show when he just was not hiding as Long Arm anymore. Shockwave gave you an excuse to buy both color schemes. Oh, okay, he put it down again. Mr. White says Shockwave mode was stable. There you go. Yeah, I thought it was. Mr. White confirms it. I think if you look at Long Arm, it's probably the mode that you probably not use because it doesn't look nearly as good as the Shockwave mode. At least if you ask me. I think the Shockwave looks better than the Long Arm. But you appreciate the Long Arm because, hey, we've basically got a quad former here, and that in itself is pretty good. And then there was obviously the recolor from the Target exclusive Shockwave, which was in purple, in the right color scheme. Obviously, now Long Arm does not look right because he's purple. So he's definitely not in disguise. A little bit. Oh, this is the one that came with the Activator's Bumblebee, which I had. And Activator's Bumblebee is pretty good, as I mentioned last time. But yeah, this I remember this came out and people got annoyed because everybody wanted this version of Shockwave as well. You know?
Yeah, I can understand that.
Because this was the last time you saw him. I think you saw him as a purple boy. But this is, probably the best of the Voyagers. It was interesting, unique, had a really cool gimmick. Kind of a punch-counter-punch gimmick, which we hadn't really seen for a long time. And this worked better than punch-counter-punch.
I was going to say, it works better.
Yes, definitely. The only negative maybe is the H-Tank. Is not a very cool looking H tank, if you know what I mean.
No, it's not really, is it? It I mean, the robot modes are the selling point for this, aren't they?
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
The alt modes are kind of there. It's fun that there is a gimmick to let you identify two different versions of it as Autobot and Decepticon with a very simple weapon flip gimmick to do that.
Yeah.
But it's not the main event. You're here for turning the slightly geeky goober Long Arm into the really sinister Shockwave.
Yeah, 100%. I think the issue with the vehicle mode is it's kind of pretendery. In the aspect of it doesn't do a lot. Like you can see there are a lot of gaps in the H-Tank, especially in the photo of the purple version of the mode. You can see how like where the front treads are, that's just his shoulder, and there's a big gap between his shoulder and his like the track and where his body actually begins as well. And you can see that little panel that just kind of awkwardly flops over the Long Arm face as well.
Yeah, it's not terribly clean as alt modes go, unfortunately.
No, but again,
but like I say, it's a quad changer.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. It's like it's, you know, It's more articulated and arguably more fun than like a 6-shot figure potentially.
Yeah,
you could say. XL Hez says the one Shockwave in the multiverse to not lose a hand. That's true. Yeah, he's got both of his hands. Now, granted, he has claw pinches rather than hands, but technically, I suppose if he's in long arm mode, he can be more ambidextrous if he needed to be. Like, I imagine Shockwave has a bit of an awkward like time typing in Shockwave mode.
Yes, that could be an exciting experience for him.
Mr. White says leaving the gun on crane mode was the better option. Leaving the gun on crane mode. What do you think to that, Big D?
Interesting. I mean, I like how the cannon looks.
Yes. It's a cleaner version of Megatron's gun as well.
But I do like how the gimmick actually works, where the cannon folds over to reveal the crane arm. That's actually it's actually a surprisingly, it is cleaner than it really has any right to be.
Do you remember, what's his name? Smokescreen from Armada?
Yes.
Did a similar thing, but kind of the reverse way of doing it, but not as well.
Yeah.
Though you could say the crane was better for Smokescreen. The cannon was just way too big. Here, the crane is way too small, but passable, and the cannon is the perfect size. I would say, lengthwise at least. But yeah, Shockwave, great, fantastic figure, both versions. Now we're on to the last of them.
Do we want to do Rodimus before we get on to the leaders?
Yes, that's a good point. Thank you for reminding me, because I would have forgotten on. Let me hop over to animated, and is it Hot Rod or is it Rodimus?
It's Rodimus Minor.
That's it. Yes, Rodimus Minor. Thank you. Yes, this one is again a pretty interesting toy. Proportionally, he's got some very, very, very thin legs compared to his upper torso. But I guess that's appropriate for animated. Really nice head sculpt. Transformation, I remember it being pretty solid, especially for like an animated figure, and it turns into a beautiful car. It
does. I mean, there was a point where I did pick this one up eventually secondhand, because I was so disappointed in when I eventually got the Classics Hot Rod.
Oh no!
Because I ended up getting it mainly because I wanted Cyclonus, so I got that Battle for Earth 2-pack, Battle in Space 2-pack. Not the
3-pack, the 2-pack one, which was also very similar.
Yeah, mainly because I didn't want Galvatron, so I settled. So I eventually I did find this one eventually because it just looked so much nicer, and it really is. It for the longest time, this was the Hot Rod in my collection.
I can see why. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It looks like it has gorilla monkey arms, but it does have a hinge joint in there, though it's quite recessed. So he does have normal maybe not normal biceps, but he does have a bicep bend. I think the weirdest thing about the way that the robot mode looks is how open his hands are.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I've ever had my hand in that sort of pose.
I have, but that was a day when my entire arm froze up.
So it wasn't a voluntary thing.
For about 8 hours.
Yeah, so, that makes sense. Was it because you wanted to use your Energon bow? Was that the reason?
I wish it had been. It was quite unpleasant because I couldn't feel my entire arm. I
imagine that would not be a great day. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not a natural pose, is it? It's just
not really. And I get, obviously I get why, because you're meant to slide the bow handle in there, and it makes it way easier. But on its own, without him holding a bow, it just looks a little weird again. It's another one of those animated figures that has slightly weird hands. Otherwise, it's nice figure, pretty well articulated. Obviously, no waist joint, I don't think, at least not much of one. Solid. The Japanese one looks weird because it's it looks purple. It's meant to be red metallic paint, but in the light, at least in these images, it's coming across as purple. I don't think it is. I think it's meant to be like a maroon colored purple.
Yeah, more of a classic color that he came in.
Yeah, I think the problem is because it's shiny metal. Perhaps it doesn't read that way.
I think the lighting they've used as well,
that's not helping. Yeah, the color correction of the camera. I think
Yeah.
that's why people were so up and down on specifically the Japanese line of figures, because some of them were better. A lot of them were just, what are you doing?
weird.
This is super strange, man. Mr. White says around the time of Hot Rod's release, Bokon got Judd Nelson to guest, and I remember snaps of him really not caring about being there. I can imagine.
Kel Supri.
And then we had two redos of the figure for Bokon. Again, fantastic redos. Both are well, one's a remold and the other's just a repaint of that figure. It's Breakdown. We'll talk about Breakdown first, who has a newly sculpted head. And instead of an Autobot insignia, he has the Stunticon Job logo on his chest. Not in a white, in a cream color though. So if you wanted him bright white, he's not that version. It does still come with the Energon bow. The only thing I wasn't too keen on is the fact that the engine block is on black plastic rather than maroon plastic to go with the rest of the maroon on the front of his hood.
Yeah,
I don't mind the engine being blue. It's specifically the plastic underneath that being black. Looks a bit weird. Not a huge deal. Just a thing where you go, oh, that's a shame. Otherwise, again, really solid distribution of color to make it look like Breakdown. And I really like the really pissed off head sculpt as well.
Oh, yes, that's a very angry Transformer, isn't it?
It's a man that has issues. Now, what do you think, Big D, between this version and Sideswipe? Or G2 Sideswipe, to be specific?
Can I be honest about something?
Sure. Do you not like it?
No. I quite like Breakdown. I think that's a really nice cream they've used. It's a very consistent cream.
Yeah.
And the blue and the turquoise and the two spot colors, really nice. But this Sideswipe kind of it's nice.
I love the character that wrote for him as well. It's like a detective, like an old washed-up detective.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
That was in the comic, and I remember the panel reading of it as well being really cool. And it kind of works for how his face looks as well. It looks like a slightly homeless, old, angry man compared to the super angry. Even though they haven't done a huge amount to it, it's just because the mouth is almost kind of hollowed out.
Yeah.
It works kind of well.
I mean, the only downside is how they've gone for a completely clear translucent for the canopy.
Yeah,
if that was coloured, that would kind of punch it into gimme.
I think, wasn't it that they were going completely off the G2 color scheme?
I think so, yeah.
And I think that the windows on those were stark translucent as well. But you're 100% right. It should have been at least a little bit smoky or something. Maybe just colored them white, kind of almost opaque. Like, you know, those windows where if you push your boobs up against them, you can see the boobs, but if you walk away from them, you kind of silhouette it out. One of those windows. Kind of like that. It doesn't need to be just a window.
Yeah.
I love the detail on the side of his arms. You can't really see too well here. Or in the vehicle mode, but you can see there's a little pattern on the side there, which is pretty nice as well. And he's got the lime green spoiler as well. There's enough lime green on the figure to make him, again, very G2-y. I like this version.
Yeah, it's actually that lime green's actually probably what does it for me, because that's a really nice lime green. It's not too bright. It's just the right point before it becomes neon.
Yeah.
While still being distinctive.
I'm trying to remember how this figure... I think this was the sign-up figure. Like, if you signed up, you got this. This was your freebie figure, but I can't remember. I'm not sure. I remember you had to buy the Auto Troopers separately. That was the Army 3-pack. I can't remember how you did this one off the top of my head. Mr. White says, I wish I got that size. Why? You weren't at the BotCon, were you? I'm guessing you mean at like a TF Con, a TF Nation kind of convention, right, Mr. White? Probably. But yeah. Mr. White also says, wasn't Sideswiped? No, he wasn't the Kit Bash figure. I can't remember. I think... Wasn't it Minerva?
I want to say yes, because I remember reading about that.
Yeah, I think it was Minerva.
Yeah.
I think what they did was they got the RC mold and they gave it a custom head, and then you painted it up to be Master Force Minerva, which is the one I did, which is why that's the only animated figure I didn't have from this series, because I couldn't get, you want to get to the customizing class, you were fucked. You just couldn't do it. Good luck with that. Right, so that's all of these ones done. We can move on to Ultra Magnus. Ultra Magnus. Yes, we mentioned him earlier. He is a very, very big toy.
Oh, yes.
His, it's not automorph, but his talking, mouth-moving, eyebrow-moving gimmick works a little better than Megatron's. I still say his mouth opened up more so than Megatron's did, but the eyebrows moving was still a bit on the wobbly side. It's still not great, but he had a decent amount of lines on him, light up sounds, and he also had a lot of weapons on him, including the Magnus Hammer. He turned into a, what kind of vehicle would you say that is, Big D?
I think it's potentially an armored assault carrier.
Army or police? Because it's army, right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be army, but he's coloured in very police-style paint job in this one.
Yeah, that's why it's a bit confusing, but I guess it's a little bit too heavily armoured for the police, hopefully. Well, it was in Detroit, technically, I suppose, animated took place, so maybe it's appropriate. Especially when you tooled him up, where you could unfold miniguns from his bumper? Question mark, his bumper? You could also fold out 3-barreled cannons, 2 of them from the top of his vehicle mode. You could turn the guns round on top and also push out another 2 cannons that were on top of the missile silo things as well. And this obviously would transfer over into the robot mode as well. So he has a lot of stuff. Like when we said he was tooled up, he's tooled up with the electronics, the lights, huge shoulders, all of that stuff.
I mean, if you ever heard the phrase "speak softly and carry a big gun," this is kind of like the guy who exemplifies that, because Lord is he packing.
Yeah, you can see why he was the quote-unquote leader of the Autobots here. He was also compatible with Headmaster. I never had Headmaster, but he did interact with that thing. Cool. I never got the bulkhead, so I never had Headmaster, so it wasn't an issue for me.
It's fun.
It's fine. It's fine. He was fairly articulated again, as you would imagine for a figure this big. No waist articulation because of the speaker being in his tumbly-wumbly. His shoulder pads made things a little awkward, not too bad. They were fairly easy to move out the way, but there were still big chunks of plastic there. And he held the Magnus Hammer again fairly easily. There was a big old slot in the hand. The Magnus Hammer had 1 slot, so you couldn't have him dual wield it. Unfortunately, he could literally only hold it in one specific way, and it was like you could never use it from the bottom of the hilt either for the hammer. It would always like be the midpoint. Imagine, for an example, like if Thor's hammer just had a longer shaft to it, but he still held it from the usual point. That would kind of look the right way about it.
It's kind of great for at-rest poses, but not so much if you want any action out of it.
No, and I think that's the problem with all of the leaders. Because of their size and the gimmicks that they were involved with, it did not make them desperately dynamic, especially compared to, like Prowl or Oil Slick and stuff like that, who were shockingly posable, to be fair. Outliers.
I mean, all the leaders were really heavyweight figures.
Yeah.
There's so much in them. It was kind of nuts, to be honest.
Exelhead says, isn't G2 Sideswipe details at the bottom of the page? They probably were, but when... Oh, no, here they are. This figure was available exclusively at BotCon. Oh, so no, that's as much as you got. It doesn't say specifically what the way to get it was, or how it was bracketed. I'm afraid. Also says Autobot Commander, but we couldn't get a decent fight between him and Megatron. True.
Yeah.
Nope. Just have Shockwave fridge him off screen. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And Mr. White says, sorry, Universe 2 Sideswipe was 2010 custom class at BotCon. Oh, there you go. And Mr. White also mentions what we're going to be moving on to, which I felt the Roadbuster Magnus was such a lost opportunity. Went for just pounds at one point, now quite pricey.
Yeah.
Really? It's pricey now? Huh. I guess because nobody wanted it. I mean, I looked at it and didn't really want it. The color scheme is weird. It's like Magnus gets fired from his day job and has to moonlight as a Ghostbuster, and this is his overall suit he's being given, because his head's still blue and white, but then the rest of his body's like orange and green.
It's the fact that it's still Magnus, because it's actually a really nice paint job and alt mode for a Roadbuster.
Yeah, it would work perfectly for him.
If
The color spreads all there.
Even if they'd repainted the head to match, that would probably have helped.
Do you want an even cheaper, shittier solution? Remold Headmaster into a Roadbuster helmet.
That's a big old helmet, but yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, it's a kind of cheapo way of doing it, but you could effectively do that. You could have it like a Hazard Magnus, or like a environmental suit attack Magnus, or something like that. Maybe it's not even a Roadbuster. Well, no, it could be a Roadbuster styled helmet, and you just say it's like a helmet for protecting himself from breathing in fumes, quote unquote, breathing in robots and whatnot. But you know what I mean. Yeah, but
or even make it a life support helmet for whatever Shockwave did to him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that'd be an idea. Yeah, like he has to wear it because he's fucked up now.
Yeah.
Keeps his spark from like escaping his damaged head or something. That could be neat. That would have given a little bit more oomph to it. I'm surprised it's pricey now, but I guess like all of Animated is probably pricey now because of how old it is.
Yeah, and I don't think this one had as bigger releases or as wider releases for the original paint job.
I think it did. I just think it was at the end of the line. And why would you buy the weird Ultra Magnus repaint when you got the normal Ultra Magnus? Because that's what I did. I didn't want it. I had the normal one.
Yeah, and honestly, these leaders were quite pricey for the time, if I remember.
50 or 60, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
Don't get me wrong. They were big. I mean, this one in particular, like I said before, I always remember walking to Toys R Us, and when they were still selling animated, he was normally in the front display as you walked in the shop, and it made an impact because it was huge.
Yeah. It was an interesting look. Not one that I would want. Mr. White says either that or they were shelf warmers. I'm sure it was shelf warmers. Hang on.
Yeah.
Roadbuster had a much larger release in the UK than the original Magnus. Oh, really? There you go. Huh. Yeah, that sounds like America. It's okay, we don't have the stock for Magnus. They can have the excess stock for this Roadbuster one. Because I remember seeing the Roadbuster ones in stores. I definitely remember seeing a lot of them as well. Yeah, that's this one. The last one we've got for the second last one is Leader Bulkhead, which is one I don't have as well. Which is What If Bulkhead, slightly worse proportioned in terms of accuracy. I think that's fair to say. But then bigger, so he's accurate scale-wise, so that's good. And also laden with gimmicks.
Yes, I actually do have this one, but I picked it up secondhand, so my experience has been weird because I didn't have any instructions for him either.
Oh. Did you have all of his missiles, his 4 missiles?
No. But more importantly, he didn't have the bits that clip over his head in alt mode.
Oh. Oh,
and I didn't,
no.
And I didn't know that was a thing. So.
Oh, no.
I spent like my first couple of days with the figure trying to push the fucking head in when I was transformed into robot vehicle mode.
No, yeah, because that's something about the Voyager one. You don't have that like what would you call it? Like a turret section?
Yeah, because basically, because of the electronics where the headmaster gimmick attaches, the head can't move.
Yes.
So they built in 2 chunks that basically just close around the head to hide it in vehicle mode.
This is obviously not accurate to the show. That's not how he transforms. But like you say, what else are they going to do? Everything's in his chest. So
yeah, and like I said, on my version, those 2 pieces were missing.
Oh, that sucks.
So I didn't know they were missing because I didn't have instructions for it. I got it like a few quid from a car boot sale. It was a junker effective. So I can't complain. But yeah, it was weird.
Oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for the legs being too long, because that's the real kicker, that the Voyager gets the proportions right. It's just too small. This one, the legs, if they were just shorter to get the proportions better to match the animation model, this would probably get a bit more love.
Yeah.
And also if it had painted eyes, because those dead eyes are not bulkhead.
The lights and sounds, I suppose. But you're right. I think. What do you think of the head sculpt? Because I think I might like the head sculpt a little bit more on this one than on the Voyager, but I'm not sure either. You know.
I mean, it's a little more neutral.
I mean,
it's a lot more neutral expression-wise, to be fair. But it. I mean, it's all in service of that gimmick we've already talked about with the leaders, where it simulates talking, and the eyes light up, and all that shaz.
Yeah.
So it's fine, and at least Bulkhead, his design, the actual electronics, apart from the fact you can't move the head to hide it for the alt mode, which honestly, I don't think any figure like this would be able to do, given his transformation. He actually, the amount of space he has in his torso is really good for taking all those electronics. It doesn't compromise any of the other elements of the figure.
Right.
Which is something we've talked about. How that did affect Megatron, did affect Ultra Magnus.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice if there's at least one where it doesn't do that. Not perfect by any means, but at least it works with what they've got. And the headmaster is a fun bit of fluff as well. So
now one hand has a chainsaw in, which has a lever, which I assume you press the button or you twist the button and the chainsaw goes. What is the button in the other arm for? Does it just open the claw?
I think so. Yeah.
Because I looked at the list and it didn't say specifically. I can't
remember because I've not taken him out of where I've stored him for a while now.
Right.
But, I think that sounds about right, to be fair.
I'm assuming as well the missiles were not on springs. So I'm guessing you just pulled them off and threw them at people manually, I guess. The vehicle mode is almost better than the original one, but like you said, because of that turret that they have to use to hide the head, that's where it loses itself. Because it doesn't have that big gap. Going down the back, where on the Voyager one, that's where his arms were. So there was just a big slot.
Yeah, it's a lot cleaner apart. Apart from that turret, and you can see where the 2 halves are on arms, and those arms, like I say, they are just so fragile.
Do you think yours had broken off? Is that what had happened?
I think so. I mean, I had a look at it eventually, and the actual turret halves had snapped off of the arms. The arms were still there, but the connection point between the turret halves, they'd gone completely. So,
damn,
kind of a shame, but it's one of those. Like you say, it's almost perfect. If it wasn't filled with all the electronics, and instead the head just kind of like flipped to create a smooth alt mode roof.
Yeah.
It would actually probably be one of the best alt modes of the entire line.
You've got this weird problem of Hasbro probably knew they needed a bigger bulkhead. They probably knew that, but then you've got the problem of so we've leveled up his status to leader, but now because he's a leader, he has to have this mouth talking gimmick. He has to have the lights and sounds. and he has to have the compatibility with the headmaster gimmick. And this is how we're going to introduce the headmaster gimmick as well. So it's like, okay, man, which way do you go?
Yeah.
It's fiddly. I think things could be better served now, potentially, but they're not. Even the bulkhead of today for animated was not the right way of doing the bulkhead. So what can you do? It's weird. Like you said, the fact that the headmaster here was here. I didn't like headmaster in the show, but I appreciate the inclusion of the figure. Or the helmet, whatever you want to call it.
I mean, he was a complete annoying, like a lot of the human villains in the show. He was just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And no one really gave two craps about him. But the fact that they did this, and it was compatible with Ultra Magnus. Was it compatible with Megatron?
All of them, yeah. All of the leaders.
That's actually genuinely an impressive thing for them to do.
Yeah, because it meant that every chip had to have headmaster lines on them as well.
Yeah.
Now, not many, but it had some. Neat. Good planning. It's just weird that, as well, to activate that gimmick, you have to wait until the last couple of the last leader as well, or one of the last leaders to get that gimmick to work.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. And he wasn't recolored or anything either. That seemed to be it. And then the last one we're going to talk about, because we're not going to talk about the slight variations of Prime, we're going to talk about the one that everybody got fucking pissed about that wasn't available apart from in Japan. It's Blackout. I got to fiddle with this at Dave's house.
Didn't sneak it out then?
No, it was tempting, but I didn't steal it. I'll tell you, it has a lot of Lugnut vibes to it. Like, it's smaller than you'd want it to be. I don't remember if it transforms in a similar manner. It's got the stupid, you can see like the parts of the launcher where it basically has one big giant disc launcher, which he can barely hold. It doesn't look very good. The good things about him are the design's spot on. I love the Gatling guns on the side of his arms. I love the three fingers. I think that's done really well. The helicopter mode is kind of silly and fun, just like a big fat ugly small dog kind of thing.
I love that the head sculpt's basically giving him this big old handlebar moustache with a big sneer underneath it.
Yeah.
And the different sized eyes as well. He just looks so angry. It's great.
It's definitely not well, for the time when you had to buy it and import it wasn't really worth the price, and it's definitely not worth the secondary market kind of price that he's probably worth.
What size is he? Leader or Voyager?
Voyager, which is why I say he's very much a bulkhead Lugnut kind of situation. He's just too small. I think he's comparable in actual height to them as well, if I remember. So
that's a shame.
He's squat. And unfortunately, you might have noticed he has gorilla arm effect for some reason. Even though I don't really think many, if any, of the previous animated toys do. This one has the gorilla arm effect for whatever reason. I don't know why it was designed this way, where it almost felt like we'd got past it previously, at least with this line, but I guess we wanted to go back just one more time.
Now, I'm just thinking, was this the first time that a movie character had appeared in another version of the franchise? Blackout was pretty much a movie original character in every...
Yeah, he was pretty much the only unique character in that first movie. Everybody else was someone else at the very least. So I don't think there was any.
But this is it's not just the fact it's Blackout. It's actually a really good animated version of movie Blackout's design, because he's got that hunched look, the way the head kind of comes out of the front of the helicopter, where the helicopter splits.
The rotor blades, how they kind of lie as well. Yeah, you're quite right.
Element of him and the Gatlings on the arms. It's a really fun bit of design work, to be fair.
And it's a much better looking Blackout than the movie's design. You actually make it fun and interesting.
It's one of those things that I'd kind of not be amiss to seeing this take on Blackout get redone in another line as well, to be fair.
No, I'm not against that either. But then again, like Barricade which was the movie where they redesigned Barricade into the full-on police car with the knuckle dusters. Was that 5 or 6?
5, I think.
I mean, that whichever one it was,
Yeah.
that would be a neat design to see retuned for an animated show as well.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, Barricade. I've actually been quite glad to see him crop up in. He's kind of like been grandfathered into mainline now.
Yeah, I just never like it when he's just boiled down to repaint of Prowl.
Yes,
he's the black and
that's
copper and purple version. It's like, oh, fuck off.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be a Datsun.
He doesn't. It's more fun. I wish they'd try and have a bit more. It's like I wish we'd had a flat line. So I was like, when he showed up in IDW, that was a fun idea.
Evil Ratchet, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's still fundamentally a medic. He's just also a bit of a dick.
I guess technically the closest thing we got to Flatline was Knockout, right? From Prime? Because Knockout's a medic. They're not the same character, but the same kind of concept of the evil doctor.
I mean, kind of the closest I think we have at the moment in as available is Magnificus in terms of being a slightly sinister Decepticon.
I don't like Magnificus. It's just Preceptor but black.
Yeah, it's a bit of a lazy one, but I quite like the head sculpt on him.
Yeah, the head sculpt's nice. I don't mind that. It's just I don't want the really simple, basic recolor of a character to be like, we'll have him in fiction now. It's like, I don't mind like cheapo toy pooping out, but I don't like the attempt to kind of justify him in reality. We know why Magnificus exists. It's a cheapo repaint.
Yeah. No, I'd love to see Blackout get see him do something like this for this design into, say, Age of the Primes or some, mainline at some point. Give us a version of Blackout that's been G1 maybe.
Yeah, I think I could see them do that. I was thinking like with the movie, they try and make it more movie, but then if it's in the Legacy line, yes, it would G1ify it as that's the way of things. XL Hedge says, still rather oh, sorry, I missed a bit. Didn't Magnus do more in animated's Japanese opening than in the actual show? Like in terms of actual things that he does, maybe in terms of screen presence, like when he's on screen, no. He wasn't on a lot, but he was on screen more in the show. But in terms of like action, he didn't do a lot of action. Mr. White says, I love Blackout, and he is a prized possession. Oh, you have the animated one. Oh, damn. Well, you should give that to Big D or me. Me. I want it. XL Hedge says, still rather have Headmaster episodes than Professor Princess and Green Arrow parody. I don't know. I really don't like those Headmaster episodes. I'm trying to think. Do I prefer them to what was the toxic dude called? Meltdown, right?
Yeah.
I think that was like episode 4, and I was like, "What is this shit? What is happening?" And I remember people trying to convince me that Meltdown was not a bad character, and I was like, "Oh my god, I hate it here." I hate it here. Mr. White says he is a tiny Voyager in terms for Blackout. Yes. XL Hedge says, excuse you, Andy. Studio Series Blackout Spinster is awesome. Well, that is if you like the movie designs, which I don't. I'll take your word for it. Barricade's redesign was The Last Night, so that was movie 5. I think I said 5 originally, or 4. I don't care. I hate the movies.
4.
Mr. White says, "I'd love."
All was Age of Extinction. 5 was Last Night. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. I'd love a gray movie. I'd love a gray movie version. Movie verse version of this, and it will actually sell. There you go. But that is all of the animated toys. We didn't do Hydro Dive Bumblebee because it is granted a new Bumblebee that's a bit more accurate, but with a weird scuba diving thing. From Japan, so it had metallic paint all over it. Oddly enough, this one doesn't really have the weird Japanese metallic paint on it for some odd reason. The closest you get is the gold bits on it, which are kind of a bit more shiny than the rest of them. They also did an Optimus Prime that had the wings, the wing kit as well.
Yeah, Jetstorm Prime, if I remember rightly.
Yes.
Or was it Wingblade Prime? One of the other.
Something like that. I can't remember if it was... it was Japanese. I can't remember if it had a lot of crazy paint on it. It might have, but yeah, this was the end of the animated line. Generally, this part, the stuff that we talked about tonight, is where the figures kind of stepped up. They were fun before, but I think they got, as I said previously, a lot better by this time period.
Yeah. Back end of season 2, season 3, the figures were kind of they'd kind of dialed in what they were aiming for, and most of them, even if they weren't winners, were at least the execution showed it was real exciting engineering.
Yeah, the worst thing about it was people were just annoyed about how many characters were missed off, and there were a lot.
Yeah, there were.
There were a shocking amount of characters that people were like, but why though? Why know him? Why know the classic one is why no Char Team? And granted, Japan or importers got one of the members of the Char Team, which was Blackout, and then that was it. Yeah. No one else. No one was happy.
It's a weird one, but Van Hasbro didn't really seem to have much confidence in animated.
I can't remember what the policies were around that time period, but it's weird because because obviously like these seasons were when the movie had came out and they were just making money. Like the movies were banking them super hard. Because they went from this straight on to Prime. So I guess they went maybe.
Oh, that's right, because they had the hub thing.
Yeah, I'm guessing they just. Yeah, Prime was animated was part of Cartoon Network. So maybe they just wanted out of Cartoon Network and were like, fuck you, we'll just kill the show and do our own one. Maybe that was something.
It was also when they brought in the aligned continuity.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's why Prime was not really the movie, but almost kind of sort of similar to the movie because it had to all be sort of somewhat connected, but not really. Christ. The aligned continuity was a fucking mess.
Yeah, animated sadly was sacrificed on that altar.
Yes, granted, I don't think it was as big of a sacrifice as the Earth's Mightiest Heroes, Wolverine and the X-Men, Spectacular Spider-Man sacrifice that we got. I think that was a much bigger sacrifice because those shows were much better than animated.
Yes, they were.
But happened because of the exact same reason, because a movie came along and went, well, go fuck yourself in some ways. Because without the movies, they wouldn't have been able to make the hub. Thus, they would have probably had to stick with Cartoon Network. Maybe they would have still made Prime and given up with animated. Who knows? Maybe they would have continued it on.
Maybe we'd have gotten a 4th season of animated, so Prime could have actually been, I don't know, planned out better.
Maybe. I think it was at this point, right? Animated was the starting ground of you only get 3 seasons, bitch. And this is it never changed from this point onwards. This got 3 seasons. Prime got 3 seasons. I'm pretty sure the shitty Machinima series got 3 quote unquote seasons or animation things.
Rescue Robots is the outlier. To be honest.
Yeah, that's the weird one.
that just kept on going. Fair play to it.
It was like that and My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, with the shows that just kept getting series or seasons. It kept getting seasons again and again. But Big D, I think this is probably where we can wrap up to show. Mr. White says, please don't mention Machinima. There was someone who said they'd never seen the Machinima series, and you should. You should watch that show. That's the thing. The Southern Dandy, known as Overlord.
Andy, that's a hateful thing to suggest to someone.
I do like my hate crimes. That's true.
Especially if you didn't warn them first.
I still can't believe the accent they gave Overlord. It was fucking bizarre. Why was he not South African, South American? It's so strange. Big D, where can people find you on the internet if you want to be found? Boobly boobles.
Oh, I am over all the social medias as David Kelly. You can either find this particularly charming icon designed by our own Mr. Gruff, or a picture of Cup. Honestly, I can't be asked to update it half the time, so it'll be one or whatever. Along with Mr. White, we co-host a show for the Fluff and Hammer, Fluff and Busters, where we natter over a movie.
Have you got a new episode coming?
We have quite a few in the bank that are waiting to come out. Mr. White was able to recover our Total Recall show.
Oh, that's great news! Congrats, good stuff.
That's in the queue as well.
Oh, good.
He's done some nice stuff for the video version of that with some panels, which I've only watched a bit so far, but they're very funny edits in how he edited them.
Did Mr. White put in some of them dank memes, as the kid would say? Did Mr. White use the Skibby toilet?
Nothing so crass. We're a much better class of humour. Or we try to. But we've got some ideas for the next couple of episodes. I think, honestly, Mr. White's been so busy in the minds of John Wick.
Oh, man, okay.
Not John Wick, Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh.
I know it was Keanu and John. So.
I just had an image in my head of Mr. White just like printing off pictures of Keanu Reeves without a shirt on, pasting them around his apartment, being like, I love you, John Wick. You're so pretty. Mm.
No, I imagine if he went to see anything Keanu related anytime soon, he'll probably have panic attacks.
Oh, man.
Because of how deep he's been on Johnny Mnemonic.
Oh, God. Mr. White says, I print pictures of Keanu anytime. Oh, there you go. Good for you.
Yeah. So, yeah, we should be... We're still working out when we'll do something next. But it'll be soon. And
okay.
We've got a nice bank in... A few episodes in the bank, so they'll come out when
Mr. Gruff can.
Has a gap in the schedule for them. So that's
just
cool.
Spare time, which is also like... that could be
honestly,
any time.
If he flung them all out in one hit, that would be terrifying because it's just so much recording we did.
Oh, it wouldn't be a good idea. The episodes would just get buried.
Yeah. Otherwise, I also joined Mr. Gruff on his Deeper Dive show now, where we dive into an article on the Fluff and Hammer that he wants to investigate further. I
think he's considering bringing back Lurkers in the Lobby as well, because Gruff doesn't have enough to do.
I know. Honestly, I've been enjoying listening to those episodes.
They must be old. I don't know how old they are. But
yes.
Old.
Some of the stuff you guys have been saying of them, I've been thinking, oh, that's not going to age well.
Have we talked about the weird Cthulhu film where it was about two men jerking off under a bridge?
You've mentioned the bridge.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I can't remember if that was actually one of the films you've discussed properly, but I do remember the last show I listened to, you and Mr. Turnbull and Mr. Gruff that did come up in conversation. I still,
that's the only part of that movie I can remember. Because I remember, where are the monsters? I don't want to see just dudes tugging it under a bridge. What is this movie?
The thing is, I'm kind of tempted to add all these Cthulhu films to the watch-along list.
Maybe not that one.
Maybe not, but
maybe not that one.
But no, they've been great fun to listen to.
That movie, whatever it was called, is imagine you go to see The Thing and they didn't tell you that they just put on Brokeback Mountain instead. Where's Kurt Russell? I thought this was Antarctica, not the Texas. What's going on? It's weird.
Now that's one hell of a mix-up in the projection room.
That's how it felt when I saw that film. Whatever it was. I think it was just called Cthulhu. But I guess now there are a few more and old ones as well, like H.P. Lovecraft films. Me and Griff could go back to. So I'm happy to do it if he wants to. It's up to him.
And I'm also a contributor to the UKAnime.net.
Woo!
Occasionally, when I can get my ass in gear to write something.
That's fair.
And yourself, Mr. Andy, where can people find you?
You can find me on the Moonbase 2 podcast. Obviously, here I am, Boobly Floobles. We're at the Moonbase 2 Transformers podcast on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, all those places. ccbunker.weebly.com. We're there. We're on the Moonbase 2 forums. I mentioned the YouTube one. I'm on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube as Decayed Andy. We're on the Flesh of the Human Being Man person, where we're playing Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 2 at the moment, because that's where we're up to in the game saga. And we're playing Hitman, whichever one it was. Did you see my last go around as we started Hitman 2?
Yes, because you just... Have you done the Miami yet?
No, I've just started Miami.
Yeah, Miami's fun.
Yes, I started the level because it was right at the end. I just decided to punch everybody in the face, and then they started gunning me down, which I was like, that's a bit harsh.
Yeah, it's one of the maps that it really sings once you've unlocked a few of the extra starting locations.
Okay,
and you've learned some of the places to go, because you can do some really quite funny stuff.
I enjoyed the previous map, the kind of starter level, because I enjoyed doing the challenge where you kill 10 people with the katana and shurikens.
Yeah.
And it was the first time I'd gone loud in a mission and went, oh, I like just killing people.
Yeah. I don't think I've done that katana one yet, to be fair.
It's pretty easy.
I need to. You know what's funny, though? Until I watched your video, I didn't know you could blow that Jeep up and distract everyone.
No, I mean, I'm sure like the radio came in and said, you need to make a distraction. And there's a little red thing and went, that's probably explodable. Yeah. The thing I was surprised a bit about was just like 2 shotgun shells from the automatic shotgun, and it blew up just every car. I was like, oh, damn. It's made out of tinfoil. All right, well, fair enough. Everybody died. I was very happy.
Yay.
Yeah. But that's it. I'm not sure how streaming and podcasting should still probably be fine for a bit, but I'm not sure exactly how streaming is going to go in the near future, but we'll have to wait and see, just because the schedule is higgledy-piggledy at the moment, or will be, I imagine. But this show should probably be at least Sunday. I can't imagine that'll really change. So we'll catch you next week. I don't know if there'll be news next week, but there'll be some kind of show. Maybe it'll be a toy-related show. Maybe it'll be news-related show. I guess it really depends on what's going down in the world of Transformers.
Yeah.
Until then, thanks again, Big D.
Not a problem. Always happy to jump in.
And we'll catch you guys next week, everybody. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.